top 5 guys, especially all the good players on offense, are out. Like, are you
Mm,
watching this while we do the show tonight with a lot of emotion, or are you sort of
mm.
resigned to the fact that you know where this is going?
I mean, I'm definitely watching it with a bunch of emotion. I don't believe in like not rooting for your team, even if the deck is stacked against them. Now, there are some Cavs fans that feel destitute at this moment and, think the world is coming to an end. But you know what? They're probably going to lose. I'm not going to sit here and just go, oh, whatever. It's not worth my time. I am a Cavaliers fan at heart. I grew up in my backyard pretending to be Mark Price, right? That's all I wanted to be when I grew up, was as good of a shooter
Most points
as
per
Mark Price.
game
So
by
I'm
any head
going
coach
to
in
watch
NFL
them. I'm
history.
watching Cavs preseason games, summer league champs, by the way,
There you go.
summer league champs.
There
Like,
you, we hung a
I'm watching
banner
no
for
matter
them.
what. You
Emmett,
know they got rings,
like,
nice rings for them.
like the rings I got at the dentist when I was in kindergarten? Like what kind of rings are we talking about? Hammer and Emmett on ESPN Radio in for Amber and Ian tonight. We are presented by Progressive Insurance. Bundle home, auto, and save by going to progressive.com. That is progressive.com. We're tied at 3 here in this game, a minute in. Emmett, the funny thing about the Celtics, so tell me where I'm speaking out of school, if there's a
Okay.
moment where I'm speaking out of school. If they don't win the East, Joe Mazzulla is going to get fired. Fair? I mean, come on.
I think that's,
I love the fact
that's
that
fair.
Brady
Now, if
Quinn
they lose
he
these
stuck
final
up
six,
for
7 games,
Russell
maybe
Russell
don't fire him.
Westbrook
But if they don't win
Wilson.
the East, I do think that that is
Because
highly
Russell Wilson was
probable.
getting too much
Zion
flack.
Wilson, I don't know, but it's very probable.
Whoever comes out of the West, especially if it's Denver, will be favored in the finals. Is that a fair statement or not? Over Boston.
That is not fair. I don't think so. I'm not down. I don't get like the Celtics are a great basketball team. They won the East by 14 games. Now all of a sudden, and you're not the only person. I hear it all over the place. It's like, oh, I don't know about the Celtics. You don't know about the team whose closest margin of victory has been 7. You know, in the first two
Well,
rounds of the playoffs.
Emmett, they've been playing Long Beach State so far in the playoffs.
All
Like
right, so you know
again,
what you
I,
do to
I'm
Long
not.
Beach State? You dust them, and they pretty much been dusting all of their opponents.
Oh, okay, so congratulations to Boston. Who do you think the favorite right now should be on ESPN Bet, where you can go depending on what state you are in the union? Emmett and I are in Ohio, so we can bet on ESPN Bet. The Celtics are minus 130, so you got to give money if you want to
Right.
bet Boston to win the title. They're a big favorite. The Nuggets at plus 240, and then OKC at 8-1 is the third team on the board. So really, they've got Denver and Boston way ahead, Emmett, of everybody else in the odds. Are they right? Are those odds right?
I think the top two are right. I might flip the Mavericks and Thunder, maybe, but yeah, I mean, I haven't seen anything from Boston to make me think that they're not, the favorite to win an NBA title. Now will they do it is a whole nother thing. They have been known, the cliches, play with their food, and all of those things are true, but wait until they get 100% healthy. I'll be interested to know when they think Porzingis will be able to come back because he makes them one of the juggernauts in the East.
No question. Amber and Ian on ESPN Radio. I'm Aaron Goldhammer. He is Emmett Golden. The Celtics off to a 6-3 lead here early. Emmett, they are a devastating three-point shooting team. To get excited about a Celtic team, Emmett, they've had a really long championship drought. It's been since 2008, that they
See,
haven't won a
hold on,
title.
this is what we're getting down to. You just don't like Boston.
Correct.
Okay, there it is. You just don't like Boston. So that's all it is. We've got to the bottom of
I
the
mean, they're
issue.
the most spoiled sport. Emmett, they're coming off of a dynasty of football. They've got as many basketball championships as anybody. They've won 17 of them. Okay.
Right.
They got to watch Larry Bird, Kevin Garnett, Paul Pierce, Havlicek, and all these great players dating all the way back to the beginning of the 80s.
I mean,
The Bruins,
I'm
have
starting
won
over.
multiple Stanley Cups.
Now
We
bring us
both
into the Panthers, though.
And
played
they used to have this Red Sox curse thing, which now none of them can vetch about because, they've won 4 World Series since then. And so they might want to play this woe is me card, but I'm not going to let them get away with that because they've got 4 parades that they've been. So there's that kid who brings to the parade the thing that says, I've seen 9 Stanley Cups and
Uh huh.
18 championships. And I'm the most spoiled brat sports fan. Yeah, so unless you are the Bostonian, I don't know why you would get all excited about the Celtics being the favorite to win the NBA title. Of course, I'm rooting against them, and of course, I'm having trouble giving them any credit whatsoever because I don't know that they have not been tested. I guess is the only way to
I'm
say it.
I'm rooting against them tonight because they're playing the Cavs, and I'm a Cavs fan. But I said it before it started. It does not matter. The Celtics are coming out of the East. They're clearly the best team in the Eastern Conference. Now, is there a bunch of competition in the West? No doubt. And I can't guarantee that they beat any of the teams that are left. But I know when it comes to the East, it's Boston and everybody else.
All
Negotiation.
right, up next, we'll talk about what I wanted to talk about first, which is in the NFL, where Santa Goodell put something fabulous in our Christmas stockings. We'll explain two of the best matchups of the entire NFL season next. Amber and Ian. Aaron Goldhammer, Emmett Golden with you
Let's
on
start
ESPN
over.
Radio and on the ESPN app. Well, it used to be that the NBA owned Christmas Day, and rightfully so, but the NFL has honed in and is now making this a sports watching paradise with football and basketball. Hammer and Emmett with you, ESPN Radio, ESPN app. We're on Sirius XM Channel 8. Emmett, we got the news today. We're in for Amber and Ian, by the way. We got the news today about the NFL and the ESPN coming together for a Christmas spectacular. First of all, I actually like playing sports on holidays, but by the time you get to Christmas afternoon, now this is coming from me. So I don't celebrate Christmas, and maybe you'll explain this to me differently. But to me, my guess is by the time you get to Christmas afternoon, you're kind of ready to, start focusing on something else. You're looking to stick with your family. You're ready to lock into a couple of games by the time presents are open and you eat a meal, and then at some point everybody gets bored. It's a perfect time to transition into the NFL season.
No, you couldn't be further off, brother. Like that's when the party gets started, baby. Right around 1, 2, 3, 4 o'clock, and even into the evening. At least that's how my family does it. You and I once did a post game show after the Browns game on Christmas, and there was a party going on in my home while I was upstairs in the attic, and that was at night. That was the night game. So the only knock I
Okay.
have on the NFL with having Christmas games is why do you have to own everything? Like that has been the NBA's day. It was a tradition. I actually liked that. I like that you can start at 10 a.m. and watch the NBA all day
You
long.
still
And
can.
yeah,
You need this thing called a remote control that can pop you
sure.
over to Netflix to be able to watch the two NFL games. And Evan, they're being ruthless to the NBA because the two NFL games that they gave Netflix for Christmas are both doozies. You've got Kansas City and Pittsburgh. I mean, those are two markets. It's Mahomes on Christmas for the second consecutive year. And then you've also got Ravens Texans, which I think, first of all, it's a playoff rematch. And second of all, CJ Stroud, Lamar Jackson, that's one of the best quarterback matchups head to head that we're going to have in the NFL all year. Those aren't just two games, those are two spicy games that we have on Christmas.
Not only are they spicy, it's late in the season, so there's so many playoff implications and seedings and all that. The NBA, the games are kind of meaningless in a way, right? Because if you win or lose that game, there's still plenty of games left. That's why I feel like you have to watch, especially in our business. We have to watch the NFL games. We must know what happens. We got to know what's going on in the NBA as well, but you don't spend a ton of as much time talking about those Christmas Day NBA games as you do the NFL. So it kind of hogs my attention for the majority of Christmas.
All right, one of the things people are talking about with this is how many different subscriptions you need to subscribe to in order to be able to watch all the NFL games. Let's
The
say you have a
hell?
pay TV Sunday ticket subscription.
I ran out of steam.
Because that's not a necessity.
No, it's not.
It's
But
a luxury.
to get all the national games, you got to have Netflix, you got to have cable. I mean, obviously, you got to have ESPN, Fox, CBS, and NBC. You got to got to have Prime, and you got to have Netflix. And it's that by the time you do all the math, that's having to subscribe to a lot of different things and a lot of different partners in order to just get the basics. Like I get that Sunday Ticket is an add-on and it should be more expensive if you're going to do that, but I kind of actually wish that the NFL would create
It is
a
Browns.
service
The Bengals.
that allows you
Brown.
to be able to watch all of this stuff.
Mm.
Yeah,
And then
and
you
it
don't
would
have to
cost all of those put together, so it wouldn't even matter
Emmett,
if they did that.
Emmett, God bless Peacock, but there's nothing on Peacock other than the two
Oh
NFL
no,
games that I want to watch.
no, come on,
What
man.
else is there?
They have the Premier League. I watch that all the time. They listen. This is I look at that list and go, I got them already, so I'm not missing anything.
Hey, for people that don't know Emmett at all, Emmett is the guy that before you started working in sports, and even when you didn't make nearly the amount of money that you make now, Emmett had every HBO, every Skinamax, every Stars, every you had Emmett, you got TV channels. I think your cable bill. He broke this down once, like 10 years ago, and Emmett's
Yeah.
cable bill was almost as expensive as his rent
Well,
was.
see, so now this is the way we do it. Like we've got cable, and we need to, especially to watch the local teams in Cleveland. Long story, we don't need to, but so we have cable.
Yeah.
But so my wife will pay for all everything else is on me. All the Netflix, the Peacock, the Stars, the HBO
Hulu.
Max,
Ah.
yeah, all Hulu, all of that. I take care of all of that. It's real simple. You want to watch the NFL? It's
What the hell?
if you can't, I understand it, and my heart goes out to you. I understand everybody ain't got it like that. Ain't no shame in it, but that's the world we live in.
Evan, the two things that put me over the top, okay, Peacock,
Yeah.
because I have Amazon Prime already because I gotta have, toilet paper shipped right to the door. I have all the ESPN platforms because we work for ESPN, because obviously those are the best platforms there are to be on Hulu and to be on ESPN plus all that. It is the kicker to me, the Peacock thing, and then now Netflix to be doing this. Can I just borrow your passwords for like one night, and that way, or like go over and we can watch the game because I just don't want to go in. The minute I put my credit card in, Dennis, and everybody says, "Oh, go use it," I definitely forget about that every single time. And then a year later, I realize that Peacock's been stealing, 10.99
Yeah,
or whatever a month it is.
and listen, as long as I'm not over my profile count or whatever, because a lot of my sons had their friends and all of this, I don't mind. I don't mind lending my password and username to them. I don't mind at all. I'm paying for it anyway. But you're sleeping on Peacock. Watch what Fresh Prince is on. The new Fresh Prince. Like I said, they got all the you know,
Mm.
The Office.
There's a well, here's a new one. I
Yeah,
watched the new Fresh Prince.
yeah, man.
Really?
Yeah. Oh yeah, yeah. Oh yeah.
Okay.
Jeffrey
And
Buster
that's where you went
Keller.
analyst. You're not on the field, because that's a dumbass take.
You ain't got to.
You know what else has Fresh Prince? CBS Plus. You
Right,
really want
but
to
you
go
got to
back and
wait on
watch
them.
all those.
You have to wait on them. You can just watch whatever you watch anything you want on Peacock.
I don't know about you guys. I'm a big bundle guy with the ESPN Plus and the Hulu and
Oh,
the
I love
Disney
it.
Plus.
Oh yeah.
That to me is the creme de la creme of the bundle world. And it's nice that you get multiple things for one price. I'm just trying to relate to sports fans here, Emmett. And like, look,
Let's try it again.
really,
But not take so long to
for
get the
another
ball.
$1 billion or whatever it is to get two games on Netflix, are we moving into a world where all these games are going to be on ESPN?
Ooh, that was a dot.
Like I said, I understand everybody can't afford everything. I get it. But this is the world we live in. And it's been shifting this way for a long time. So get creative. If you can't afford it, again, no judging. I can dig it. Get a friend to give you their password or something. Or there are ways to find streams that I'm not going to get into on national radio, but there.
Can I ask you about that when we're not
Yeah,
on the air?
yeah, let me, you might know
Send me
somebody.
a link on
Right.
that. You might. No, we wouldn't dare. We
Oh,
wouldn't dare disagree. Coming up at the top of the hour, 8 o'clock Eastern Time, we will have the full NFL schedule, and we will break it all down for you. No one will analyze all the games on all the different streaming platforms quite like we
Yeah,
will.
that was my assignment, and I got to.
Amber and Ian. Up next, we'll get back into the NBA as the Cavs and Celtics are locking in a little duel over at the Garden. Hammer and Emmett in for Amber and Ian on ESPN Radio and on the ESPN app. Well, I thought the Knicks were cooked. They're running out of players, and yet somehow they still won a playoff game, Emmett, by 30 points last night. Amber and Ian on ESPN Radio, ESPN app. Hammer and Emmett in for Amber and Ian. We are presented by our friends at Progressive Insurance. Just a quick update from Boston. How about our Cavs, Emmett, hanging in there against the Celtics? We are tied at 28 after one quarter. It's amazing to look at the Cleveland box score to see some of the guys who are chiming in. Their leading scorer is Marcus Morris with 7 points. Emmett, where was Marcus Morris on March 1st?
On the couch somewhere. But he was in shape. He was ready to go.
This might be another Joe Flacco Cleveland story. Guy coming off the couch is delivering in a big high leverage spot as the Cavs try to send it to game 6 without Donovan Mitchell, without Jared Allen, without Karis LeVert tonight as Boston tries to advance. Emmett, I think that the environment did make a huge difference last night in New York. I know everybody fawns about it. People are sick of talking about what Madison Square Garden is. But I thought the team needed a big energy hit. They needed a big energy boost.
Yeah.
From Brunson to Hartenstein to everybody. And I thought the crowd gave it to them. And I really thought the effort of the Pacers last night, I got to say, Emmett, that 2-2 game 5, I thought it was pretty embarrassing how badly they got beat up.
Yeah, they looked like they weren't ready to play. You know, they just looked like they were going through the motions out there as far as the Pacers are concerned. And the Knicks, hey, Brunson gets back to dropping 40, good things happen. Oh my God.
There
We go.
Yay.
Yeah. I want to be like an unbiased sports talk host, but every time Cardi plays that song, it makes me not like the Knicks. You know, and I don't want to not like them because they're a good basketball team. Trying to be a professional here, but I go to sleep and I wake up in cold sweats because I just keep hearing that dang old song that they keep playing.
Yeah, I don't even want to bring it up because I'm afraid he's actually going to hit the button and play it again. Amber and Ian on ESPN Radio. Hammer and Emmett with you. Emmett, 53 rebounds for the Knicks, 29 rebounds for the Pacers. Isaiah Hartenstein alone had 12 offensive rebounds, and the Pacers as a team only had 5 offensive rebounds.
What
We
damn.
can talk all night about adjustments that Jalen Brunson had, putting plus points again, stars showing up, and all of that. I just think that the analytics people don't necessarily like to break it down this way. But Emmett, when you get one guy with 12 offensive boards going straight up Moses Malone, the odds that you're going to win that game are like 0%. So I expect Indiana to bounce back when they're back at home and they're more comfortable. But man, oh man, did they have an opportunity to really jump on top of this thing. The Knicks have 6 players, and they're giving better effort and better energy than Indiana is. Inexcusable.
Yeah, I mean, just strictly offensive rebounds. The Pacers had 5, the Knicks had 20. That's 20 extra possessions, 20 extra opportunities. You can't give a bad team 20 extra opportunities and think that you're going to be able to win, let alone a team like the Knicks that we know is really good. And you know what? I got to say, Hartenstein has made himself a whole lot of money. He is going to cash out in free agency.
Good for him. Meanwhile, Nembhard, if he takes more shots than Tyrese Halliburton does, there's something really wrong with him. If Halliburton's the best player on the floor, Indiana is going to win the series. But obviously, Jalen Brunson was last night. I just thought Halliburton, again, this is an issue with aggressiveness. I mean, I expect
This is going to be a tough season for the Giants.
and I think this series is going 7, and we'll have this wild, crazy atmosphere in the Garden for Game 7 a few days from now. Amber and Ian with Hammer and Emmett filling in on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app. I have a message I would like to give to the celebrity row and to the
Okay.
former Knicks that are attending these games at Madison Square Garden. Evan, what is Spike Lee's role on the Knicks coaching staff? What does the website say his job is with the team?
Oh, he's not on the coaching staff.
Emmett, he's barking at the players and walking up and down the sideline like he's about to break out the grease board and draw up an offensive trend. Spike, I get it. You're in the game. Great basketball game. Somebody please remind Spike and John Starks that they do not coach the team. Emmett, if I was Tom Thibodeau, I wouldn't be happy with this because they're having ongoing tirades with the Knicks players throughout the course of the entire game. And I swear, John Starks is giving them tips on how to play defense, and Spike is trying to draw up an offense, meanwhile, for the Knicks. Everybody's very into it, but if I was Thibodeau, I'd have to come out in a press conference and say, hey, everybody, I'm the coach of the team, and you are not.
Hey, they're just really invested. I'm not mad at them. And whatever attention they get, it's the guys in the truck, the director, that's like, hey, close up on Spike, get Starks. So I look, as long as you're not on the court or, in a player's way or something like that, I don't care. Man, they haven't won in a long time. So I get it, right? When the last time they won a championship?
73.
Yeah, I wasn't even born. All right, I was -7 at that time.
Yeah, I
So
was minus
they haven't won a championship
26.
in a long time. I understand. I used to feel that way until the Cavs won one.
I mean, like, I'll give credit to Stephen A. because he loves the Knicks and he goes to these games. And Stephen A., he sits courtside like all the big celebrities should, like he did. But I don't see him out there trying to, teach Deuce McBride how to get in a better defensive stance, which is what I'm seeing from Spike Lee and John Starks. Speaking of Stephen A., there was some conversation on First Take on ESPN today. Stephen A., of course, on Wednesdays, joined by Christopher Mad Dog Russo, amongst others, about the Knicks losing Game 6, and then whether OG Anunoby, who's really brings their team to a whole nother level, could come back in time for a Game 7. This is Stephen A. on First Take earlier today.
If you couldn't handle the pressure in Game 5, why in God's name should I believe you going to handle it in a Game 7?
Damn.
So that's why I believe the New York Knicks have clinched the series, but that doesn't mean they'll win Game 6. And
Oh, they actually finally fixed that glitch where it actually shows 425 now.
have a chance against Boston. You'll need OG. If the New York Knicks win in 6, they got to start that series early. It extends to Game 7, but you win. It's taking a chance. It extends to Game 7. Buy OG Anunoby additional time to be ready for the next series. What do? It's an interesting question.
I thought he was going deep, but he cut it short.
Is it an interesting question?
No, it's not. And I don't. What's going on in the sporting world here lately, right? Oh, I'm a Tottenham fan. Their fans wanted to lose, so the rival didn't win the title. And now Stephen A. is saying he thinks it'd be best for his Knicks to lose Game 6. No, losing is never good. You should focus on winning. Winning is the most important thing. OG will be back when it's time to be back. What happened? Why are people rooting for their team to lose or thinking it's a good idea for their team to lose? Because you mess around in Game 7.
Damn, the Packers have 4 straight league games.
First Take
13,
crying
14, 15, and
because the
16.
Knicks mess around and
Wait, we
lose.
put the Packers on a
Just
Monday
explain
night?
a little
I
what
want to
Stephen
go.
A. is saying here. Of
I want
course,
to
you
go
want
see
to
it.
win Game 6. I can't believe that Stephen A. is going to be watching the Knicks in Game 6 and rooting for Indiana so that OG can come back in Game 7 and then be there for the whole Boston series. But I think what he's saying is, like, one silver lining
Good job.
if the Knicks do lose Game 6 is that you would maybe get OG back for Game 7 and then maybe as you head into the Celtics series. Now, I don't know what the status of that hamstring is. I mean, he threw a tire, and usually that's at least a week, if not 2. If not, and I'm sure that they'll try to push it, but that's the kind of injury that, okay, you could put him back on the court, and he guards Jason Tatum for 10 seconds, and he re-injures it, and then he goes and sits out. You want to bring him back when he can definitely be effective. But the Knicks haven't been to the conference finals since the year 2000. It's been 25 long, hard years.
Yeah.
If they could win Game 6,
And you
win
do it.
Game 6,
Yeah.
right?
It's not better. It's never better. No, you want to win Game 6 so you're guaranteed to go to the conference finals, and with an opportunity to get to the finals. Oh, by the way,
Yeah.
quick little update for all our fans out there. There's the second quarter is underway. About 10 minutes left. The Celtics have the time at 34. But now hear this. Yes, Max Strus has 9 points to lead the Cavaliers. So I cannot believe it's the second quarter and this thing is tied.
Cavs 5 of 13 from three. Celtics led in scoring by Derek White, who has had a bit of a slow start for Jason Tatum. 34 all with 9:33 to go in the second quarter. Of course, Emmett and I are in Cleveland, so we'll definitely keep you posted there. Emmett, we were a little disconnected, I think, emotionally from this game at the start of the show and at the start of the season, maybe resigned to what was going to happen. But as the Cavs turned around, I've noticed your eyes shifting towards the television a little bit more often. Up next, we go out west and try to distract Emmett from watching the Cavs game by talking about my favorite basketball team. Hammer and Emmett in for Amber and Ian on ESPN Radio and on the ESPN app.
Oh, fucking hell.
Well, I don't think there's any more doubt about who the best team is in the West, and I don't think there's a lot of doubt about who the best player is either. Amber and Ian on ESPN Radio, the ESPN app. I'm Aaron Goldhammer. He is Emmett Golden. We'll talk Denver Nuggets, who've won 3 in a row to take a commanding 3-2 series lead over the T-Wolves in that Western semifinal series for the second Emmett next time. The Cleveland Cavaliers are continuing to do this. Boston playing with their feet a bit. 6:27 to go, second quarter. It's the Cavs 46, the Celtics 43. The Cavs getting contributions from the likes of Evan Mobley, Max Strus, Darius Garland. But Marcus Morris has been the hero. He's made both the threes he's got. He's got 12 points. He's gone from off the street to delivering so far in a playoff game at the TD Garden without both Donovan Mitchell and Jared Allen playing.
I guess it really is the reverse for the Celtics. They can't play at home. Having home court advantage is a bad thing for
Home
them.
court disadvantage.
Right.
They've been
It makes
a 500
no sense.
team at home in the playoffs over the course of the last 4 seasons. And Emmett, I looked at your tape. So, beginning of this show, Emmett, a big Cavs fan, was not locked in. Excited to talk about a schedule release and the NBA's whether Tom Brady should have done that roast on Netflix. Now I'm looking at it. All of a sudden, he's got a little pep in his. He's dreaming. Emmett, is your team going to come back from a 3-1 deficit?
Oh, yeah. That's old hat for Cavs fans. What's a 3-1? They don't get started until you're down 3-1 around here.
All right, my favorite team is the Denver. Nikola Jokic.
I did not know Goldhammer was a Nuggets fan until he said that last
I
year.
know everybody anointed Anthony Edwards the best thing to enter the NBA since Kobe Bryant or whatever. For some reason, people just don't want to acknowledge the best basketball player in the world is a kind of floppy, Caribbean guy who has about a 3-inch vertical leap, and he is the best player in the world. I'm sorry, you got it.
Has he not won 3 of the last 4 MVPs?
Yeah.
So how are people not recognizing he's the best in the world? He's won 3 MVPs in this year's MVP.
I'm not talking about voters and basketball writers and people that work for ESPN that have the ability to. Those people know who he is. I'm thinking about the conversation that happens in the street corners, the barbershop, the cab, the Uber. Nobody wants to acknowledge, at least amongst my friend group, oh my God, how great Nikola Jokic is. And he's not got any buzz or any. He's just delivering. And if they win the title and he goes back-to-back here with the 3 MVPs, with this comeback as dominant as he's been, and this is going to be on top for all these great players.
If he keeps it up, absolutely. And he's almost there because, to your point, 3 out of 4, you win multiple championships, 3 out of 4 MVPs, multiple championships, or 4. I can't. 3 out of the last 4. And if he wins multiple titles and all that, you're absolutely right. I don't know, man. You must hang out with Tatum. Because everybody I know, they give him his props. Now, they also give Anthony Edwards his props as well. And I think both are due recognition. I think Anthony Edwards is probably the brightest young star that the NBA has seen since Ja Morant. Ja's star has been stuff that he's dealt with. But I mean, everybody I know respects and even to a certain extent fears Jokic because he's a walking triple double and he does it effortlessly, just about.
Jokic became the second player with 40, 10 dimes, and 0 turnovers in a playoff game since individual turnovers were tracked in 77, 78. The other was Chris Paul in a playoff case in 2018. When accounting for his field goal percentage as well, he's the only player with 40, 10 assists, 0 turnovers, and 60% shooting in a playoff game, going all the way back to 1978. But Emmett, it's more than just Jokic. The Nuggets have turned this series into Jamal Murray, it's point-and-play playoff Murray.
Yeah.
And while everybody wants to say Michael Porter is sort of the third banana on the Nuggets, Aaron Gordon has been absolutely stained for Denver in this series to help them win the series.
I've always felt like
Why is
he's
Aaron
basically
Rodgers doing
had
a read option?
basically the two best role players in all of the NBA. You know, I think about Aaron Gordon. Aaron Gordon was drafted by the Magic to be what Banchero has become, and I think they gave up on him really quick. And maybe he isn't, the guy that you can build around, but as a role player, oh my God, he's dynamic. And the same thing with Michael Porter Jr. Had he not had the back issues, he would have been a foundational piece for a franchise. But due to the injury stuff coming out in the draft, he kind of slid and all that. So these aren't your average third and fourth options on an NBA team. These guys are right on the edge of being stars.
Can I test drive one with you? There's a valid vote for it. Sure. Rudy Gobert won his fourth Defensive Player of the Year award this year. He's a great regular season defensive stalwart. The list of guys who've done that, I think it's two dudes, Dikembe and Ben Wallace are the only two guys in the NBA that can be credited with the vote for Defensive Player of the Year. And I don't know that it's worth like pinning Gobert down because he's getting schooled by Jokic. Guess what? Everybody is getting schooled by Jokic.
Not OKC. We beat them in the regular season, 4 games to 1.
Voted on these
So
awards
we
with
know how to
confidence
whoop that ass, pullers.
after the playoffs that we would have different outcomes in the conference. When we knew at the end of the regular season we couldn't about really trying to adjust the way we vote for these postseason awards, because right now it's a little weird to me that we award a defensive player of the year without including the biggest teams of the entire world, you know?
No, I don't think so. Because we jump
Mm.
on two ends of the spectrum so quick in the playoffs. Because I mean, remember the Timberwolves were the best team in basketball, a week or so ago because they were up 2 games to none on the Nuggets. Listen, Rudy Gobert is a great defensive player. Is he having a bad series? Yes, but I don't think a bad series against Jokic erases everything he did this year. I think, that's why you have that's why you have an MVP, of the finals and, of the conference finals or whatever. I don't think you need to add in the playoffs because I believe you're more likely to give it to somebody who didn't have a great season, who had a great playoffs, and I don't know if the awards were designed for that.
And then I'll listen to it. It's just Gobert has been played off the floor in these two playoff series this season. I don't know
Wrong
anybody
motion.
who feels like that they really played their best game in the series when Rudy when Rudy was out for game two with the birth of the baby. To me, I don't know if Chris Finch, if there's anything to be learned from that. How dead he is so far.
Wow.
Do you think they've
Oh
got it
yeah,
in them? Dead. Dead.
I
You don't think
yeah.
they've got it in them to win game six and force this thing to a seven game?
No, all of the momentum is on the Nuggets side. They're the team with more playoff experience. They've been through this
They're
before.
smarter. They're not more talented, but they're
Mm.
smarter.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, they've been there. I think when you have experience, man, that goes a long, long way. And now that the Nuggets have won three in a row, they have all the momentum. So it's not impossible for the T Wolves to win Game Six, but I definitely like the Nuggets in it.
What?
Well, we've got it. The Monday Night Football schedule is here. The whole schedule has arrived, and it is a holiday in America. Amber and Ian's on ESPN Radio, the ESPN app. Aaron Goldhammer, Emmett Golden with you. We are Hammer and Emmett. Quick update from the NBA. As Boston right now is holding a modest lead over our Cavaliers, 53 to 48, with about a minute to go in the second quarter. So just about halftime of that one. So
Mm.
of course, we'll keep you posted what's going on there. And then we already knew, because of a previous announcement, how the Monday Night Football schedule was going to start this year with Aaron Rodgers back on Monday night, taking on the San Francisco 49ers back in his hometown. Do you think he feels like there's some odd, like, redemptive quality there, or do you think he wants nothing to do with a Monday night opener after playing the Steelers after the first round?
I think he's happy it's on the road and not at home. That turf, I think, is more dangerous than anything. So I think it's a good week one matchup and one that knock on wood, hoping he makes it through.
There are a couple of big ones here that just as I'm seeing that appear on the
Mm.
Monday night schedule. Week 2, we have Kirk Cousins going to Philadelphia as the Falcons take on the Eagles. I guess you would
Mm.
call that the Michael Vick Bowl. We have a doubleheader in Week 3. Do you like the two Monday night games, Emmett? How do you feel about those?
I mean, I like the two Monday night games if they're both good games. And many of these you don't know until the season kind of unfolds. So I like it as long as it's working out. And both games are
Mm.
good and competitive.
Jaguars take on the Bills, so that's Trevor Lawrence and Josh Allen, and then the Commanders have their third week against Cincinnati. And I got to say, I mean, early in the season, one of the things that I think really is the most interesting about the league is how the rookie quarterbacks are playing. I remember last
Hmm.
year we found out about C.J. Stroud pretty early. We found out about how Bryce Young's season was going to go pretty early, and Anthony Richardson
Yeah, I'm
seemed
gonna
to
do a
be the
2015 NFL
second part
season
of the league
instead of
to
doing my
give us an
personal playlist right
idea of
now.
Jaden Daniels early in the season with the Commanders in Week 3 on Monday night.
Yeah, I mean, I like that. You probably want to see them early, before the NFL welcomes them to the league. But we see every once in a while there are quarterbacks that come in as rookies and really set the league on fire. I'm into that for sure. I worry about the end of the year. The first 5 weeks, you feel like you're going to be pretty good. Once you get to the end of the season, games that look good right now might be different depending on injuries, right? You see Joe Burrow against the Cowboys. You're like, man, week 14, that's a great matchup. And it
Yeah,
is.
yeah,
But if Burrow and Dak aren't there,
yeah.
it changes things dramatically.
No question. Kansas City on Monday night on ESPN and ABC twice. October 7th, they take on the New Orleans Saints on Monday night. And then on November 4th, that'll be fun with Baker Mayfield and the Buccaneers heading to
Hmm.
Kansas City. I mean, like you said, Emmett, that could very well be like two third string quarterbacks
Right.
going head to head against each other. By the
I
time,
hope not, right? I hope not. I'm just
by the
saying
time
it's possible. By the way, that is my anniversary. I think I got that right. I messed that up on game night once, but yeah, November 4th, my anniversary.
all right, Emmett, let's get that tightened up and get you out of trouble. We have an
Okay.
NFC Championship game rematch all the way at the end of the year, and I think it's one of the most highly anticipated games of the entire year. The Lions in San Francisco to
Mm.
take on the 49ers, and I am very curious. One of the real questions is, after coming so close to their first Super Bowl and blowing the 24-7 lead, how will the Detroit Lions respond? Are they still one of the best teams in the NFC, or are they due for a little bit of a letdown here?
I mean, I think they're still there. We do see every year teams that were up and had a great season kind of fall down, and then we see teams that had a bad year, kind of pop up because I think the Lions were that team last year. I don't know how many of us really believed in the Lions that they would be true contenders, but they were. Dan Campbell got those guys going and believing, and I believe in them. In golf, just signed a new contract, so I think they're in a really good place, and I expect them to be contenders all year long.
January 4th in Week 18, there's going to be a double header of games on ESPN. But I think, Emmett, check the calendar for me because I think that's actually a Saturday doubleheader
That is
that
a
day
Saturday.
on January 4th. Because, yes, it is. Because They play the last game, game 272 is that Sunday night game, the final game of the regular season, which they always flex. And Emmett, I like a little bit of flexibility in the Monday night schedule because I think too many times, as you said, teams that you think are going to be good end up not being great. I actually would call on the NFL and our bosses at ESPN to use the flex scheduling a little bit more often than
Yeah,
they did last year to try to give us really the best matchups that we could possibly have, even if it means, messing with things 3, 4 weeks in advance.
I'm with you. Just this is the problem is that people are gonna watch the NFL no matter what. Like if it was if the powers that be looked and said, "Man, this matchup nobody's gonna watch," I think they'd be quick to replace it. But they're like, okay, so maybe 11 million people don't watch, right? But we
Whoa.
still know 3 or 4 will. So like, it's not that big of a deal because we're all football junkies in this country. So much so, we're
I'm
breaking
not.
down a schedule right now.
Oh my, Emmett, we're breaking it down like it's the biggest news of the. And by the way, it feels like it is really the biggest news. The teams with the most favorable
Wow.
schedules, the Bears, the Jets. Everybody's putting these teams saying, Emmett, they've got easier roads. But I think I'd be careful with that as well.
Um,
With every one of you think, oh, they've got the
I'm
best
too chill of a
schedules.
mood to get
Sometimes
mad.
teams come up out of nowhere and a lot better than you think. Sometimes you look at the schedule, you think it's going to be Patrick Mahomes. It ends up being Blaine Gabbert that you're facing.
Yeah.
So I don't know that you can really judge a ton based on how difficult your schedule appears here on schedule release night on May the 15th.
You can. You can. I think when last year being in Cleveland when the Brown schedule came out, I was like, oh yeah, Rams, Broncos, those are 2 wins. Wrong. You know, wrong. They were not 2 wins. So as you look at it, you're like, these are great matchups. And you know what? There doesn't even have to be injuries. Sometimes teams just have a bad year, and sometimes teams have a good year. For all we know, the Saints could be out of their mind this year. Or the Falcons, who
What?
were okay last year. I know they kind of competed for the NFC South, which was the worst division in football last year. They got Kirk Cousins. They could be a lot better
Yeah.
this season.
We know all the international games. Packers and Eagles will play in Brazil. Emmett, how do you feel about an international game in week one? Or do you think we really ought to be starting the season here in the good old US of A in front of hometown fans?
I don't mind it at all. Let's globalize this thing, and then when you say you're a world champ, you can really mean it. If you play all over the world, I'm fine. Like, I'm watching. The only thing, this is my only thing, and I'm interested to see how they use it or how they move this around. Friday nights, high school football.
I agree.
That's not big in every state, but in Ohio, in California, in Florida, Texas, Georgia,
Yeah.
those are huge, huge nights. Now, I believe there's a gentleman's agreement that the NFL will not start a game uh, after 7 o'clock because they know that that's when the high school games start. So maybe
Well,
this
this
game.
game is at 8:15 on a Friday through the 16th.
Oh man, bad job. That's the only thing. And my son's not in high school anymore, but that's the only thing. Is man, it's kind of bad for the high school football players that deserve the spotlight on Friday night.
Jets and Vikings will play in England. That is at Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, where your team plays. Jags
Boys,
and Bears. I actually think that looks like a
Man,
pretty
this
good
offensive
matchup
line
in
needs
case
some
the Jets
work.
get sent overseas. And then I'd like to apologize to Germany, where they get one game this year in Munich. Emmett, the fabulous NFL fans in Germany, we know they are rabid over there. Just really, they're watching Isaiah Hartenstein, whatever, of the New York Knicks with so much love and big sports fans. Emmett, we're exporting one game to Germany this year, and it's the Giants and the Panthers. Like, to me, if I was Germany, I would send that back and try to get two
and
other teams
man,
from
Aaron,
the
those
NFL.
those guys don't know any better, right? If you sent two of the worst Premier League soccer teams to America and fans watched it, they like, man, this is the best soccer I've ever seen. So they don't know the difference. It's pro football. They'll be fine.
Emmett, David Tepper is going to pour a drink on some poor German fan.
It
And
better be a dark beer. warm too. I've
Oh
heard
my
on the streets
god.
Germans like
Does he
warm.
get away with everything in Germany the same way that he does in America? Like, does $1 billion in Germany really carry the same weight? I think it probably does, right?
Yeah, probably. Yeah, yeah. I think if you're a billionaire, like everybody in the world is kind of aware of who you are.
All right. Well, listen, we've got the schedule. We're breaking it all down. We're getting you ready for it. It all starts Thursday, September 5th. The Thursday night opener has Baltimore in Kansas City in a rematch of the AFC Championship
Mm,
game as the Ravens
okay.
take on the Chiefs. It will end in game 272, a matchup TBD that could be some kind of division championship game. Up next, Caitlin Clark made her WNBA debut. And Emmett, the haters were out as expected. Hammer and Emmett in for Amber and Ian on ESPN Radio and on the ESPN app. Emmett and Caitlin Clark made her WNBA debut. I don't think there was anything about it that was too shocking, including the unnecessary response. Amber and Ian, we're Hammer and Emmett filling in for Amber Wilson and Ian Fitzsimmons tonight. We are presented by Progressive Insurance. Round out your protection with life, phone, and pet health insurance. Make sure you check it out
And I
at
did Boston.
progressive.com. That is progressive.com. Phone insurance? You get
Yeah,
insurance
man.
for your cell phone?
Hell yeah. You know
Man,
how
I gotta
expensive
go.
these
Hold on.
things are?
Hold on, man. I gotta call Flo over there at
Yeah,
Progressive and
get
get
in
myself
touch,
some
man.
phone insurance. Halftime, by the way, in the NBA, the Celtics lead the Cavs by
90.
6. Keep you posted there. But Caitlin Clark scored 20. Emmett, I thought, which was a good number.
Hmm.
Connecticut won, which didn't surprise me. They're one of the best teams in the WNBA. The ratings number was exceedingly high. More than 2 million people watched. But look, let's give Caitlin Clark more than one game to be the best player in the WNBA, right?
Sure, sure. I think it's again fair to react to what happened. I think she kind of had a welcome to the W moment. You know, look, scored 20. It was great. 5 of 15, and in the first half, she really struggled. Then you had 10 turnovers. Now I don't expect her to have this to be her stat line for the rest of the season. I don't. But as I watched that game last night, I did see like, hey, and I'm sure she saw how big of a difference
Yeah.
it is playing college basketball than it is playing in the W. Because like, how many women do you think Caitlin faced last year that were WNBA caliber players?
A handful. I mean, maybe 10 over the course of the
I,
whole season.
I probably would say five. Maybe even
You
less
might be
than
right.
that.
You might be
Yeah,
right.
Mm.
maybe even less than that. Now, everybody she's facing is a WNBA level player,
Yeah.
and there's some really good, really good women in that game. So, she still needs to develop and grow, and I think she will. But it's fascinating to watch her play still.
For everybody who says that this was just in Iowa, just a college basketball thing, the ratings numbers on, by the way, on a night where we had NHL and NBA playoff games going. And by the way, not just any NBA playoff. You had a 2-2 game 5 at Madison Square Garden between the Knicks and the Pacers. Like, you don't get much more high profile. And on ESPN2, we averaged 2.13 million viewers, the largest WNBA game audience in 23 years since Sparks Comet's NBC Memorial Day 2001. But Emmett, 2001, like everybody just consumed media. It's almost uncomparable, and I could very easily make an argument that's the largest audience that ESPN's ever had for a WNBA.
Yeah, yeah, and I think
Mm.
they'll continue to grow. Caitlin Clark's going to be a draw. Angel Reese, is going to be a draw. I'm happy because I know Asia Wilson is someone that we talk about, but she'll get some love. People will see her play
Yeah.
because the WNBA game is different than women's college basketball, much like men's college basketball is played differently than the NBA is. So I think there's a group of fans that watch women's college basketball and enjoyed it for like the first time, and many of them are seeing the WNBA games for the first time, and I think they're like, wow.
Yeah,
the level is definitely a gigantic step up.
no question. Well, Caitlin Clark saw it last night. You mentioned the 10 turnovers. She did have 20 points. I thought she got better as the game went along. But for her, she explained afterwards this was a learning experience. Take a listen.
I would have liked to play a little better tonight. I think all of us would say that if we were all sitting up here, and as a team collectively, we would have liked to play better and shown a better product because I thought we've had some really good practices leading up to this game. But I think the biggest thing is just learn from it, move on. Things are going to come fast. That's how it is. This season goes fast. There's 39 games left and plenty of opportunities to do what we want to do. But like Coach said, like you have to be able to learn and watch it, and that's the way to get better because there's only going to be so much we can do on the court tomorrow before we play the Liberty at home.
Evan, if you had to buy stock in a rookie basketball player, would you buy Victor Wembanyama stock or would you buy Caitlin Clark stock?
Yes.
That's a really
And
good question.
he's not out of the zone.
Are you saying that because it is a good question, or are you saying that because
No,
you needed a minute
because
to
I
think
need to
about it?
think about it both. It is a good question because I mean, I think they both have an opportunity to change the
Transcend.
game. Yeah, to really change the game.
I agree.
So I don't think you can flip a coin. I can
Hey.
flip a coin and be happy with whoever I got because those are two dynamic young players that I do believe will change the game of basketball in their own way.
And I'll say this: I'm a huge hoops head. I'm a big basketball fan. I don't know that there are two players in sports that I'm more excited to see play live. Now, I've seen Caitlin Clark live already in the women's Final Four, and it was a sight to behold. Just the energy in the arena when she stepped out on the court, the sheer star power was, just something I'll never forget. It was a vibe in the building that I will never forget. But I have not seen Wembanyama, just his physical presence, a guy that tall and
Yeah.
that long who can handle the ball the way he does. But I can see a world where in 10 years, the most marketable star in two stars in sports are Caitlin Clark and Victor Wembanyama. And I think it's fair to say the game of basketball is in pretty good hands with not just, people talk about Aaron Edwards and they talk about other players in the women's game too, but I think this group of stars across men's and women's college basketball is really impressive. I would take Caitlin Clark because with Wemby, I'm still a little injury scared with a
Yeah.
guy that size and the amount of stress that he does put on his body.
I heard a take from a few folks that were like, man, the W should do what they can to make sure, that Caitlin Clark is successful. Like whatever they got to do, call fouls, like whatever. And I'm looking at that like, I think she'll be fine.
Yeah.
Like I
I
don't
don't
think
think
they
she
need.
needs any extra help.
No, she don't need any help at all. And I'm pretty sure if you ask her, she wouldn't want any help. And I guarantee you, the opponents, the other women in the W, are not going to be like, oh, yeah, let's give her preferential treatment.
Yeah.
We've only been laying the foundation of this league for how long, So, no, man, like Caitlin will be fine. The league will continue to grow. And if you want it to grow, support it. And I think a lot of people will.
Amber and Ian with Hammer and Emmett on ESPN Radio and on the ESPN app. Second half is underway. Celtics lead the Cavs by 6 in the NBA playoffs. Emmett, I'll test drive one other thing with you. I think Caitlin Clark will have really arrived, and she already has. But when you start hearing the hate that I was hearing today about, see, I told you that she'd be overrated, and she's not even a top 20 WNBA player right now. Super, Diana Taurasi, Kelsey Plum. Boy, they showed her there's a big difference a long way from Iowa City to the Mohegan Sun Casino, Caitlin Clark. Emmett, you know that she really has reached star power when people are having screaming arguments about her on TV. That is a sign of respect, not a sign of disrespect.
Hey man, talking about you on TV is a sign of respect. I talked to my son's high school football team before. Asked to give him some pointers on the media interviewing them. I said, first off, if a member of the media walks up and wants to interview you, you deserve it. We don't talk to people for no reason.
That's right.
At all. And you don't start off, you're not a topic on first take for no reason. So, the fact that she is a topic on
Good
Sports
job,
Center and
Crowder.
first
Because
take
that ball was
and
coming towards me.
all
I
that,
felt it
she
vibrate.
has earned it and she deserves it. So, yeah, that's part of the game. I hope she's ready for it. I believe she is.
What's the boundary for her having what you consider a successful career? Like reaching that? Does she have? Is it a certain number of championships? Is it? Are
Yes.
you looking at viewership, Emmett, as closely as you are hardware?
I mean, as great as she was in college, I think if she doesn't win the Rookie of the Year, that'd be a huge disappointment. We'll start there.
By the way, it's a loaded class. Angel Reese is coming in here too. It's
Sure.
Really.
not like there's a bunch
Hey,
of schlubs.
hey, it's a cold world, but she's the one. Like she's minus 700 to win the WNBA Rookie of the Year, so she should win it. It's tough to say you need X amount of championships because it is a team game. You know, I think as long as she's performing well and she's in the conversation for one of the best players in the league, and I think her career will be a win. She's already done.
NBA preview next. Well, the first game of tonight's NBA doubleheader is, just an appetizer. The Cavs don't have any players left. Celtics up by 10, 7 minutes to go in the third. But the second one could be career defining on a variety of fronts. Dallas in Oklahoma City, 2-2, Game 5, 9:30. Game tips off, and you can listen on most of these ESPN radio stations. Hammer and Ian's on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app. I'm Aaron Goldhammer. He is Emmett Goldwar. Hammer and Emmett in for Amber and Ian tonight. And this is a real turning point career game. I think it's the biggest game of Luka's career so far. I think it's the biggest game of Shai Gilgeous-Alexander's career so far. And we always hear our NBA analysts on the network say this, and I think it's true. The 2-2 Game 5s, like some of those have been great games in NBA history. And I think this series has been back and forth and sets up to be a really, really tension-filled, interesting game tonight in Oklahoma.
You know who this game is not the most or the biggest game of their life, and that is Kyrie Irving. He played in the Game 7 of the NBA Finals, hit one
But
of the
he has
biggest
to play
shots.
smart.
He does. That's where I was going. He had 9 points in Game 4, excuse me. He had 9 points, and I would be shocked if we saw a night where Kyrie Irving wasn't aggressive. It feels like he's been trying to, let Luka do his thing, and then in the fourth quarter or in the second half, I expect us to see Kyrie Irving come out and attack because this isn't a big game. He's not going to walk out and be all nervous and oh my God, I don't know. These other guys might, and I expect some missed shots early by both teams.
Yep.
But I think having Kyrie Irving for the Mavericks helps them out a lot because he's been in bigger situations than this.
I mean, kudos to Kyrie that he has not been a distraction for the whole year, and he's been relatively healthy for the whole year. But message to Kyrie from me, if I'm Jason Kidd tonight, is hey, I love PJ Washington as the next guy. He shot the ball pretty well so far in this series. This isn't meant to be a takedown of poor PJ Washington. But Emmett, this series needs to be decided if you're Dallas by Luka and Kyrie. I was listening to Hoop Collective podcast, Brian Windhurst, Tim Bontemps, Tim McMahon, available wherever you get your podcasts.
It's a really good podcast.
Combine Kyrie and Luka together. And Emmett, you need to get to 60, 65, 70 points. I remember LeBron Kyrie finals games where they get 80 points between the two of them.
Yeah.
For Dallas to score enough, I mean, it feels to me like you're playing into Oklahoma City.
Oh.
You let PJ Washington become one of your biggest offensive threats. I think that's exactly what Mark Dagnall and what the Thunder want out of the situation. I think if you're Kyrie, you've got to go early and often and get up more than 10 shots or whatever he's been averaging so far this year.
Oh, no doubt. No doubt. He needs to be much more aggressive because, he hasn't really been. Now, Luka is always going to be aggressive. I don't think Luka ever seen a shot he didn't like. So, like he's going to get his. Yeah. But he hates every whistle, whether it's reasonable or not. That's kind of the Luka experience. So I don't think Kyrie Irving has to worry about, I got to make sure that Luka gets his and he gets things going. That's going to happen if Kyrie comes out and is aggressive. And you know what? PJ can still do his thing. Other guys can still do their thing. They definitely need that because I think OKC is the better team, but they definitely don't have as much experience.
Well,
as the master.
Evan, I've been blown away by Shea in this series. That he has just shown so much poise. He doesn't look like somebody who's new to being the best player on a team
Not at
in a
all.
big second round playoff series at all, and has put up great numbers. I think he's been the best player in this series. But the youth of Oklahoma City overall, Emmett, I think is going to be a factor in this game. They are a 6 seed, but do you know how many playoff points they have scored as a team by guys over age 25? Guess how many points the Thunder have scored in the playoffs so far by dudes over the age of 25?
I'll say 7.
Correct answer is 2.
Woo!
1-5. Now, in the meantime, you've got Kyrie Irving, Emmett, as you said, has seen Game 7 of the NBA
Right.
Finals with LeBron James on his team. I like Dallas tonight because I think the youth and the experience for Oklahoma City, both them and Minnesota
I don't get why
have
does that keep happening.
had this year, for where they
Yeah.
are. And because of that, I think I could see Denver and Dallas moving on. And frankly, look, if Dallas hadn't let Game 3 slip through their
Maybe let
fingers
me
and
see
they
through
had
this and
dunked
see. Oh, this is be a better angle.
then I think they'd be up 3-1 in this series right now and be going to the closing.
Yeah. Yeah. The when you have the lack of the experience, and you've heard all of my sayings, right? I got a bunch of sayings I live by. One of them is you have to get there and lose to understand what it takes to get there and win. And I think that's where the Thunder are. Now, there are exceptions to every rule, but the rule is a rule for a reason. That's another one that I have. So, maybe the Thunder can be the exception to that rule. I'm with you a year early, maybe, for them to really, really be contenders, but they definitely can grow from here. And if they get the win tonight, and I expect that crowd to be going crazy. It should be a great atmosphere. They can definitely, really snatch that momentum back from Dallas.
Hammer and Emmett in for Amber and Ian on ESPN Radio. Coming up, top of the hour, our coverage will get going of this one Mavs Thunder pivotal Game 5, which, by the way, I think is devastating since the playoffs are in a month. Game 6 will be pivotal, too. And you know what is really pivotal? Game 7 is really important, too, if you ever end up getting to one of those. Emmett, I have a wish. I have something I guess I just want to put out in the atmosphere because I think it'd be cool.
All right.
You and I are both in Cleveland. Gratuitous, unnecessary Cleveland fans. But it was great to have LeBron go, have him become a Philly, then welcome him back with a different cast of characters, and ultimately pull off a great comeback and win a championship. My wish for the sports universe is that KD this summer, after Oklahoma City gets knocked out, because I don't think they're winning a championship, I think they're going to complete the season, that KD goes back to Oklahoma City as the
Yeah.
primary captain. Oklahoma City's first championship, Kevin Durant being the Finals MVP and really fulfilling his manifest destiny of what he was supposed to be when he went from Seattle to Oklahoma City, when the team moved and what he meant to Oklahoma City and all that. Evan, I'm just putting it out there. It's a sports story. I've no idea how practical this is. I've not broken it down on the salary cap. Emmett, I am putting this into the atmosphere because I wish it could be.
It'd be a great story. I just don't know if KD is that guy to go there. Like, I almost feel like he'd do more damage than good. And I know that sounds crazy because of how great of a player he is. But it's been something about KD since he had that Warriors experience where he's been good, but has he really elevated a team? Like, has he, it seems like he's kind of detached himself from things. And, and with the net side, we don't really need a coach. And if I'm OKC, that story would be great. Disney, the company that owns us, would make a wonderful movie about that. I don't know if it would happen in real life. I just don't know if KD's that dude.
Yeah, I just love him fulfilling. Everybody got like unless
Oh yeah,
you're
yeah.
in the Bay Area, you're Draymond Green,
One
who
of the
made the
weakest
phone call.
moves in sports history. Worse than the mailman going to LA.
LA.
Right.
When the mailman went to LA, the mailman was done delivering. You know what I
Yes,
mean?
yeah.
You couldn't count on
Wow,
him.
really?
You couldn't count on him unless
Couldn't
you
even
were Jimmy
cover a
G.
fumble.
He was a sorter at best, right? At that time, he was no longer delivering
Part of
mail.
the problem is that these were KD's like prime years and this weird salary cap spike and all of that. I wonder how people in Oklahoma City would see that, because at some point they're going to have to flip some of these draft picks and some of this cap space into tangible
Yeah.
skills that they can use to really advance their team forward. Some people have accused a team like the Cavs, which was Caitlin mentioned, of going too early, like trading everything for Donovan Mitchell maybe before they had really figured out what they had in Darius Garland, Evan Mobley, Jared Allen, some of those guys. I think Oklahoma City maybe is making the mistake on the other side, although they're having some success. They're waiting a long time to
Oh
try
yeah.
to convert their assets into some star player. There's going to be some extra piece based on the number of excess draft picks and everything that they have. Another lottery pick this year, but even though they're still playing, that eventually I think they're going to want to take that leap forward and actually make the jump and go all in for an additional superstar to kind of maybe help put their team over the top. Again, Mavs, Thunder, get it going. Top of the hour. Our pregame show starts at 9:30 kickoff of Game 5 of that series. Luka, Shea, Kyrie, and Chet, and the cast of characters. Please tell me they're not going to be showing that Shea and Chet commercial with the Kyrie jersey. Up next, we have NFL schedule reveal video talk as the schedule is now out. Plus, we'll make some picks on a wild night in the world of sports. I'm Aaron Goldhammer. He's Emmett Golden. Hammer and Emmett. M for Amber and Ian on ESPN Radio and on the ESPN app. All right, we got the schedule. We also got all the schedule release videos, and we're going to grade the ones we've seen so far. I'm Aaron Goldhammer. He's Emmett Golden. Amber and Ian on ESPN Radio, the ESPN app. NBA playoffs on ESPN Radio tonight. Thunder, Mavs, Game 5. Series tied at 2. We are presented by Indeed. Coverage starts at 9 o'clock Eastern Time on most ESPN radio stations. On Sirius XM Channel 80, Boston has taken a comfortable lead on the Cavs, 81-71. They're up 10 with 1:40 to go in the third quarter. Cavs trying to stay alive despite not having basically all of their best players around. And then we both watched the Titans schedule release video coming off of one of the great social media moments of all time. Last year they did the video, if you didn't see it, they're the people on Broadway in Nashville were trying to guess the NFL logos, and they were getting all of them wrong.
Right.
So they did a subsequent video to getting all of them wrong with the sha-da-da, da-da-da. You know, they've got like that Fox NFL theme that they play throughout. What do you think of the follow-up to that video? Would you recommend everybody go on social media and watch this?
Yeah, I'm not gonna overhype it because then people will be let down. We got to be careful of that. That happens so much nowadays. It's the best video, and then you see it, and you're like, that was all right. It is good though. They took basically the woman who probably was the furthest off when guessing the logos. She's now hosting it. And these people aren't necessarily getting the teams wrong all the times, but they're saying what they remember or know about the teams, and there's some really really good stuff there. I thought they followed it up as best as you could because I didn't think you could do better than that, and I don't know if that's better than that, but it certainly is equal to it at best.
All right, I got a fair or foul question for you here. 'Cause the other like fair or foul to rip your rival when the social media team is putting together the schedule release video. If the Browns were to go after the Steelers, if the Steelers were to go after the Ravens, if the Falcons were to go after the Panthers, I guess there's a David Tepper joke. I haven't seen the whole thing. In the Falcons schedule release video, Emmett, is that fair or is it foul?
I mean, it's what you should be doing, man. It's completely fair. Look, take shots at they're your rivals. Take shots at them, make fun of them. And again, it's not necessarily the players that are doing this; it's the social media team. So everybody's doing it, and each team is taking shots at each other. I know fans like it. I'm a Browns fan. I hate the Steelers, so when I see the social media team take a shot at the Steelers, I absolutely love it.
We are end of the third quarter right now, and Emmett, get this: the Cavs have cut it to 6. We wanted it at 5. They've cut it to 6. 85-74. As we go to the fourth, how shocked would you be, 14 if they're able to, without Donovan, without Jared Allen, without Karis LeVert, going to Boston? Isn't it kind of saying something about both the Cavs and the Celtics?
I think so.
Yes.
Yeah, I think so. I hear it said almost ad nauseum, but I do think it's true. The Celtics do kind of play with their food, but I also think what you're seeing is a gutty performance by the Cavaliers. There's no way they should be in this game.
No.
None at all. Not only is Donovan out, Jared Allen is out, and Karis LeVert is out. Your six man and one of the best six man in the NBA, and it's a ball game. You like the Celtics have let Marcus Morris drop 20 on them through three quarters.
What a night for the Morris. Marcus Morris is making himself some money in free agency. I mean, if he wants to continue playing with this performance tonight, and I agree with you on the Celtics just not being able to put anybody away. I mean, it seems like the very handoff of the switch. And when we say that about teams, okay, LeBron can flip a switch.
No doubt.
Patrick Mahomes can flip a switch. I don't know that the Boston Celtics can flip the switch that fast. I like whoever's coming out of the West more than I like them. Meanwhile, for the Cavs, assuming Boston does hang on and win this, I think we're going to have a couple of days with a lot of Donovan Mitchell. Where's he going in the offseason talk? We're on the ground here, so I think we can provide maybe a little bit better perspective on the situation. I would just say, you're not going to offer Donovan Mitchell an extension. And then even if he doesn't accept it, he's under contract for next year.
Yeah.
So I don't know that the Cavs trade him, even if he turns down the extension, to just assume, to start playing trade machine and be like, oh, well, Donovan Mitchell's going to be in L.A. or Miami. I think you're jumping to some unnecessary conclusions. I'm not saying it's impossible. I just don't think we're quite there yet with Donovan Mitchell. Agreed?
I absolutely agree. And if you're Donovan, you look LA and Miami, yeah, those environments, from a place to live might be nicer, but whatever you got to give up to get them, is that situation going to be better than the situation in Cleveland? You look at the past two games without them, your teammates have gone toe to toe with one of the best teams in the Eastern Conference. Now, the teammates, while he was out there, also played in a disappointing fashion.
Yeah.
So I could understand, why he really has some tough decisions to make. But to me, it's not as simplistic as, oh, it's LA. He's automatically going to go there. Because you go to LA, LeBron retires next year.
Yeah.
Are they better? Are the Lakers better than the
Hmm.
Cavs without
I
LeBron?
mean, all
No.
I know is the Cavs are still playing and the Lakers are home. The
Right.
Lakers are in the West and they're getting older.
Yeah.
Like you said, it is certainly a desirable place to play more games on that.
Well, that's gonna do it.
It's over. That's what there is. Number
I had an
two,
opportunity to keep it close, but
and also, I mean, he's had some injuries here at this point in his career. If I'm Donovan, I might take these injuries. The reason being this: in the NBA, what do contracts mean
Means
anymore?
nothing.
You
Yeah,
know
he
what I
could
mean?
sign the contract and 3 months later force a trade. Right? Like it means
I
absolutely
agree.
nothing.
So
Right?
while everybody was playing these games with Giannis a couple of times now, oh, he's going to get traded, he's definitely leaving, and forced the Bucks into some decisions with Drew, and that worked, and with Dame Lillard, and it didn't. One of the reasons I think why Giannis signed the extensions is because he wanted to win one for Milwaukee, but also because he knew that if he ever really wants to go, teams will find a way to accommodate him.
he's not
Number
that
one.
talented.
Yes.
And number two, Anthony Davis and Kawhi Leonard and James Harden multiple times. James Harden every year
Yes.
has shown us that there is an easy way, and I don't even know that fans judge you for it anymore. I don't even know that it's that big of a knock to your stock, Emmett,
No,
to
not anymore.
pull these moves. You know?
We know that the players run the NBA. So signing a contract anywhere does not mean you are ironclad stuck there. Maybe in the NFL you might be stuck between a rock and a hard place. Not in the NBA.
Yeah, it's a much different world. The players run the NBA, and because of that, it would not surprise me to see Donovan Mitchell re-sign. And if Boston wins, obviously they advance to the next round, and they play the winner of the Knicks Pacers series. But I think that it's going to be New York, and then I think that the NBA will get what it wants, which is New York and Boston in a playoff series with two great environments. And I wish the Knicks were whole, because if they were,
Yeah.
then I think that they could maybe give Boston a run. But this is going to be hypothetically the third straight opponent that the Celtics play, super banged up. It's just falling for them that they're going to have an easy road here.
Yeah, I actually, if both teams were healthy, I would think it's a situation where it goes 7 games and, really would be a coin flip because I think the Knicks, I think the Knicks are the second best team in the East. And if they were healthy, I think it'd be a lot closer to the Celtics. Never mind. I take it back. I take it back. I take it back. That dang on song. I take it back.
What is it about you and Nets? Emmett,
I
you
just
immediately go from saying nice things about them. You hear the go New York, go New York, go, and you become a hater.
You know why? Because Nick has been playing it since last year, right? When the Knicks beat the Cavs in the playoffs, he's played it every opportunity he gets every time we've worked together. That's why I'm scarred by that song.
Evan, Marcus Morris is going off. I hate to say this.
He
Marcus Morris
blacking out.
he's got 22 points. He's 4 for 4 from 3-point range. And the Cavs have cut this puppy to 3 with 10 minutes to go. You and I got to end this show because we got some Cavs basketball to watch.
So game 6 tonight, Nuggets, Timberwolves, 8:30 p.m. tip. This series was over in the beginning, right? Remember the whole national fodder? I mean, I can't tell you how many people were on here on our airwaves on ESPN. Oh, this thing's over after 2 games. We thought that Anthony Edwards was Michael Jordan, and we thought that Minnesota was winning the NBA title. And now what a difference some days make here when Denver reminded us, oh, by the way, we're actually the defending champs. And oh, by the way, we actually have the best player in the entire game, who is, in fact, the reigning MVP. And so Denver rips off 3 wins in a row. And that's got to be so incredibly intimidating to Minnesota, because when you are the champs, the luxury that you have is not ever getting too low or, frankly, not ever getting too high either, being able to control those emotions. And what we've seen in the NBA time and time again is that you have to take some punches before you're actually able to win a title. It seems like a rite of passage in this league, maybe more than any other, frankly, where these teams don't just come out of the gates and they don't just come onto the scene like a blast and then also win a title. We normally start taking notice of these teams, and it's like notice, and then, conference championship and and okay, now we're in the NBA title game, but we haven't actually won it yet. Boston is the perfect example of this with that core of Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. We've been waiting for years for those guys to be able to do it. And now we're at a point with Boston, and we're going to talk about this in just a few minutes in further depth, but we're at a point with Boston where it feels like, okay, they better win it. It is their time. They better get this thing done. With Minnesota, we're just beginning that journey with Minnesota, where everyone has just started to realize, hey, this is the time. Like, this is the next team that is going to be taking over at some point, and that this player on this team, and Anthony Edwards, he might be the next face of the league, but we're not quite there yet. Right now, that is Jokic. Jokic is certainly the best player in the league, even if you don't feel like he's yet the face of the league, because maybe you still give that to LeBron or Steph Curry or Kevin Durant or whomever. And what Jokic is reminding you of is that he knows that he's the best player in the league, and although he looked like he could be contained in those first couple games, what champs do is they adjust. And boy, did Denver adjust. Jokic has been so unstoppable in his last 3 games. 99 points in his last 3 games. In Game 5, he put up 40 points. He was 15 for 22. I mean, we've seen some of the best performances from Jokic in this series that, frankly, we've seen from Jokic. It's hard to play better basketball than Jokic has been playing, and I don't know what you do to shut that down or defend him, because Minnesota has something figured out in the first couple games, and then, of course, Denver switched their game plan. And part of the game plan that they switched is getting healthier. I mean, that's frankly part of what happened here. Some of it was, hey, we're going to give the ball more to Aaron Gordon. He's going to have increased ball handling duties. And that has really helped things. Not that anybody necessarily saw going into this series that Aaron Gordon was going to be the key. But Aaron Gordon taking over more of the ownership of the ball handling duties has relieved some of that from Jamal Murray. Jamal Murray's been battling injury.
See, and I got those guys right back for us.
And he's been nursing that injury now. And so part of what's happened here is time. And with the passage of time, Jamal Murray has just gotten healthier, and he's looked healthier, and he still hasn't been lights out in this series, but he's definitely been better. He's not hampering his team any longer. And if you're Denver, that's what you need, and that's what you can ask for. Here's Jamal Murray, the Nuggets guard, on his plan for Game 6 tonight in Minnesota.
I think we got to go in there with the same attitude we did last time we went there. We know the place is going to be rocking. We know they're going to come out aggressive. So I think for us, it's just focusing on us, focusing on the energy we bring, focusing on how we come out to start each quarter.
So they're going to be focusing on themselves. They're going to be focusing on the energy that they bring. Minnesota is going to be doing just that as well. This is obviously a must win for Minnesota. But if you're Minnesota, it's not a must win because obviously you have to win for the series to continue. But it's also, I think, a must win in terms of establishing yourself as that next team. Because when it ends here tonight, if it ends here tonight for Minnesota, we'll be like, all right, it's too early. They're too far. This was too far ahead of plan. We were putting expectations on them that we shouldn't have had yet. Anthony Edwards is not yet in that conversation of one of the greats. We all got too caught up in the moment. But if Minnesota's able to even push it to 7, I think, frankly, that shifts that narrative back some. So we'll see how that young team in Minnesota reacts tonight. Again, Game 6. Coverage is going to begin here on ESPN Radio in a little less than an hour from now. So I'll be taking you up to that game. And then tip-off is at 8:30 p.m. We're also keeping an eye here on Amber and Ian tonight. Amber here tonight. Ian's out. Rangers Hurricanes, that game, the puck is dropping any minute in that game. So we will keep you updated on the live action in the Stanley Cup playoffs as well throughout the evening here on Amber and Ian. But I mentioned that one of the things about Minnesota, it's reminding me a bit of the journey of the Boston Celtics. And we've been really patient with the Celtics with this core. And yes, we've seen lots of changes around Tatum and Brown over the years, but that core is still that core, essentially, with those two guys. And we've been really patient with this Celtics team overall. It feels a bit like that patience is starting to run out at this point. The Celtics are moving on. They beat the Cleveland Cavaliers, and nobody was surprised probably by the finality of that series, 113-98 last night. Now they wait to find out who they're meeting in the next round. But it's not about the next round. It's not even about an Eastern Conference championship. It's not about an appearance in the NBA Finals at this point. For the C's, it's got to be about actually winning an NBA title. Mike Greenberg on Greeny says that this Celtics duo and Tatum and Brown, this core Celtics duo, if they don't win it all, are going to rate as one of the biggest disappointments in NBA history. Take a listen.
At some point, you've got to finish this deal, or you're going to be looked at as having been one of the more disappointing teams ever. This Celtic team is so good, so loaded, rampaged through the conference this year. This Celtics team has got to finish the deal. If you're not going to win the championship with this path, when are you going to?
I get what he's saying, because I too feel like we're at a point with the C's where we've seen them time and again in the Eastern Conference Finals so many times, and then we've seen them in an NBA Finals as well. And so now you've got to take that next step. And this iteration of the Celtics seems like it's the best poised to take that next step. And certainly credit to the Celtics for continuing to shift around those guys and continuing to give those guys the proper help that they need and the proper floor spacing with Porzingis that they need in order to uplift their games. But the reality is, if I'm being objective, the reality is Jason Tatum's only 26 years old. I don't know how that dude's only 26 years old. I feel like he's been in the league for 26 years, but he's only 26 years old. Jaylen Brown is 27 years old. Didn't Jaylen Brown just get a monster deal? I mean, what really happens if Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown don't win the NBA title here? And frankly, I'm not sure they're gonna, because it feels like maybe who's coming out of this game tonight, who's coming out of this series in Minnesota or Denver, feels like one of those teams might be on their way to win an NBA title. The problem with Boston is they haven't been tested. I mean, this is the easy street for Boston to get to another NBA Finals, where they are running into a Heat team without Jimmy Butler and without Scary Terry, a completely broken Heat team. Then they're running into a Cavs team with all their injury woes, and they're a broken Cavs team. And then they're going to see a Pacers team or a Knicks team that might be incredibly broken, shorthanded Knicks team as well. So by the time we get to a finals, it feels like Boston will have been on the easy street, and whoever comes out of the West is going to be battle tested. And what is that going to mean for Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown in an NBA Finals? But again, if they don't win it, we'll all talk about it. We'll all pile on. The narrative surrounding Jason Tatum in particular, it's going to get louder, because already there's noise around Tatum kind of shrinking in the biggest moments. You can't get the one, and that's what we always do to these superstars. At some point, it's you can't get the one until you go get the one, or then if you join another team to get the one, then we're going to rail against you for that. It's what we do. And so there's going to be that, but that's really all there's going to be. It's not like the Celtics are going to get rid of Jason Tatum, right? I mean, they're very young guys at the end of the day. They're under contract. It is what it is. It was a very good Boston Celtics team. They might run out of
Yes,
into a
I'm
better
not
team out of the
causing
West,
to drop
but
the
we'll
ball.
see. Certainly the noise will increase around Boston. Coming up next here on Amber and Ian, just Amber tonight, did the NFL schedule seal the fate of one long-term NFL head coach? We'll get into that next. Amber and Ian is on ESPN Radio. His breakdown about the New York Jets having to open on Monday night was one of my favorite things that I heard. I mean, he was losing his mind about the Jets having to open in San Francisco on Monday Night Football, which it does feel like they did the Jets dirty there somehow, even though typically you would want that if you were a team, especially a team in that market. You would want the biggest stages, right? If you have one of the biggest fan bases and you're in the #1 market in the country and you're appeasing that fan base and you're going to one of the other best markets in the country and against one of the best defenses there and you have Aaron Rodgers, it all sounds great from a television perspective. But from a Greeny perspective, I can understand his apprehension after the way that things went last season.
Okay.
So that was hilarity, the way that Greeny was just absolutely losing his bleep. Amber and Ian is presented by Progressive Insurance. Insurance for
He did have a legitimate gripe, though.
protection on the road and on the water. See how much you can save at 1-800-PROGRESSIVE and at progressive.com. No Ian tonight, just Amber in the saddle for you. At Amber W Sports is how you find me. I am taking you up to our pregame action for Denver, Minnesota. That will head your way at 8 p.m. Eastern right here on ESPN Radio. We are also keeping a close eye on Rangers Hurricanes. The puck has dropped in that game, just over 16 minutes left in the first quarter. Obviously, if anybody scores, we will be bringing you all the live action right here on Amber and Ian. But I do want to talk about this NFL schedule release. I do not care about schedule releases at all because it's May. I'm going to get my panties in a bunch over a schedule in May. Like, can we at least get to July?
You're not super excited for this?
I'm not. I'm never excited for this. I pull up the Dolphins schedule. I'm a Dolphins fan. I give it a look-see, and I move on with my life. But I will say, this year felt a little different because the schedule release PR teams, the social media teams that work on these schedule releases, they are upping their games. And I think it's because of the Los Angeles Chargers and the Tennessee Titans, because they've been doing such a brilliant job now the past few years that I think a lot of the other teams have gotten the memo. We got a lot of good ones.
Oh, my Lord.
This year. Like, a lot. The Cowboys prank calls were hilarious.
Damn.
Because they seemed genuine. So that one was really, really funny. And the reaction from everybody that they pranked called with Dak and Jerry Jones and a lot of former Cowboy greats there. So that one was great. That one was really well done. My Dolphins, it was fine. They had Tyreek and
It was pretty fun. It was funny because they are fast. Yeah, and it was real
they're
quick.
the fastest team in the league, and so they did 30 seconds. I thought it was fine. Dolphins fans, I saw a lot of Dolphins fans being negative. I thought it was fine. I thought it was cute. The Tennessee Titans did it again. I did not think the Tennessee Titans would be able to capitalize on last year, where they just go out to Broadway in Nashville, which is where all your bars are, so everybody's wasted.
That one, yeah, and those have been funny.
Those are the funniest. And so this year they took a different spin on it, where instead of asking them to recognize team logos or name the team, they asked them to name something about the team. And so that was really funny. That was really
pretty
well
damn
done.
good job by George.
And what were some of the other good ones? The Chargers, obviously.
Chargers knocking out of the park every single time.
Every time. And we'll get into that more in a second. I mean, there were people are stepping their game. I know some people really like the Falcons one. I didn't love that one quite as much, but
the NFL Street, right? It was like
the NFL Street one.
Yeah, that one was pretty good.
Come on, Amber.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it was. Sorry, my bad. Forgot where board off was tonight. You're right. All right, you know what? I'll put some respect on it. That one was good. Yeah, there was good ones all over the place. Your Chiefs. I know you're waiting for me to say something. It was good. It was the only problem with your Chiefs. Didn't I see another team did the same thing?
Yeah,
with the crushing?
it was something very similar. Was it the Texans? I can't remember who it was.
I don't remember.
But
who
yeah,
the
it was
other team
something. It was something
it
pretty
the Rams?
similar. It was fine. That's fine. But that's one of those like viral things that people are watching a lot now. So
Yeah.
I understand why the Chiefs would do it or why anyone would do it. Really, it's kind of a funny one.
Yeah, so
You
it was good
squish,
until I realized somebody else had done
and
it.
you get to squish your opponents, so that's fun.
And it was creative, the things that they came up with that they
The
attributed
hydraulic
to every
press.
team. So that one was clever. So yeah, anyways, I was here for the schedule release in a way that I am not normally here for the schedule release. The schedules themselves, I don't really care about so much, but a lot of people freak out. I mean, I saw on all of our shows, they're like breaking down the Cowboys schedule on First Take today. They're breaking down the Steelers schedule. Ryan Clark is already predicting that Tomlin might get fired. Mike Tomlin might get fired just from the very nature of this schedule.
That's
Take a listen
stupid.
to Ryan Clark, ESPN's NFL
That's
analyst on Green.
that's such a racist
entire
trope,
career,
bro.
this team is always playing for something late in the season. There's going to be a true indictment on his resume, on who he is, on his character as a coach. Can his message still resonate in the locker room on how this team finishes the season? And so my question would be is, if the Pittsburgh Steelers aren't involved in the playoffs, is Omar Khan ready at the end of his second year to have a conversation with Coach Tomlin about getting a new voice in the locker room? Because at some point, 9-8 isn't going to be good enough.
Wow.
No one's ready to have that conversation. You can't have that conversation about a guy who's never had a losing record, a guy who has been the beacon of stability.
Okay, what the hell?
And a guy who has had success, of course.
What the hell?
So, no, you're not having that conversation. Certainly not this season. Now, we'll see how the quarterback play works out there in Pittsburgh. He's got a couple options. The second half of the schedule right now looks ugly, but also we'll see how these teams actually end up panning out. You've got Ravens multiple times. You've got Browns multiple times. You're seeing the Bengals multiple times. You're seeing the Chiefs. You're seeing the Eagles, all that after the bye week for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Is certainly a stacked second half of the schedule there for Pittsburgh. But again, there's only so interesting that is in May. There's a whole lot that can happen between now and the start of the season. Now, the Los Angeles Chargers schedule release was the one that went the most viral. This one was brilliant. Now, partially because they put Harrison Butker in a kitchen, which the brilliance of that, after Butker's speech, his commencement speech, the Chiefs kicker, goes viral over the weekend, the Chargers social media team had to have already had this thing in the bag. Like, it had to have been edited, it had to have been finalized, and then that thing goes viral, and then they had to have gone back in, I would think, and made those additional edits, which is just so brilliant on their part for them to do it. But that's just the beginning. That just scrapes the surface of all the things that the Chargers actually put in there. When you actually break it down, there are threads on X of all of the things that they put in there, just eviscerating every single team in the league in the funniest ways. I know I retweeted one of those threads at Amber W Sports if you want to find that. It's definitely worth checking out. There's a whole lot of things that you don't even notice when you watch it. But obviously, Harrison Butker, he caused quite the stir over the weekend. And one of my favorite, it was internet gold. I mean, James is a huge Chiefs fan, and I was texting him because one of my favorite tweets was a screenshot from Good Morning Football, and it said, "How do you stop the Chiefs?" And somebody had retweeted it and wrote, "Fast cars and commencement speeches," because it has been a brutal offseason so far for the Kansas City Chiefs PR team, and I'm sure that they are trying to scramble. They're lucky it's the offseason. They're lucky we're very far removed still from the season, James, for your team. But a bit of a PR nightmare here in May.
Yeah, not great.
Lucky it's so far away.
Not great. Not great at all.
Not a great look of the way that things have been going. But it was internet gold. And that was my favorite part of it. Because X, Twitter, whatever the hell you want to call it, is never better than when people say the things. And this was no exception.
And those people get roasted, just absolutely roasted. Yeah.
Just taken to the woodshed. And it is never.
I've never heard a white person say
when
take
you're-
away the woodshed.
Great at all. Great at all.
A screenshot from Good Morning Football, and it said release was the one that went the most viral. This one was brilliant. Now, partially because they put Harrison Butker in a kitchen, which the brilliance of that, after Butker's speech, his commencement speech, the Chiefs kicker, goes viral over the weekend, the Chargers social media team had to have already had this thing in the bag. Like, it had to have been edited, it had to have been finalized, and then that thing goes viral, and then they had to have gone back in, I would think, and made those additional edits, which is just so brilliant on their part for them to do it. But that's just the beginning. That just scrapes the surface of all the things that the Chargers actually put in there. When you actually break it down, there are threads on X of all of the things that they put in there, just eviscerating every single team in the league in the funniest ways. I know I retweeted one of those threads at Amber W Sports if you want to find that. It's definitely worth checking out. There's a whole lot of things that you don't even notice when you watch it. But obviously, Harrison Butker, he caused quite the stir over the weekend. And I mean, one of my favorite, it was internet gold. I mean, James is a huge Chiefs fan, and I was texting him because one of my favorite tweets was a screenshot from Good Morning Football, and it said, "How do you stop the Chiefs?" And somebody had retweeted it and wrote, "Fast cars and commencement speeches," because it has been a brutal offseason so far for the Kansas City Chiefs PR team, and I'm sure that they are trying to scramble. They're lucky it's the offseason. They're lucky we're very far removed still from the season, James, for your team. But a bit of a PR nightmare here in May.
Yeah, not great.
Lucky it's so far away.
Not great. Not great at all.
Not a great look the way that things have been going. But it was internet gold. And that was my favorite part of it. Because X, Twitter, whatever the hell you want to call it, is never better than when people say the things. And this was no exception.
And those people get roasted. Just absolutely
roasted.
Yeah.
Just, I mean,
just take it to the woodshed.
And it is never more funny than when you're in the wake of something like this. And it was certainly internet gold. Coming up next, it was internet gold. Here in May.
Yeah, not great.
Lucky it's so far away.
Not great. Not great at all.
Not a great look the way that things have been going. But it was internet gold.
Oh, wow.
That was
Soderbergh hits her knees.
Because X, Twitter, whatever the hell you want to call it.
Whatever the hell you want to call it.
Then when
I fucking hate that app. I fucking hate Elon Musk.
This was no exception.
And
Can't
those
cancel
people
me
get
because
roasted.
I'm disabled.
Just absolutely roasted. Yeah.
Just take it to the woodshed.
And
Just
it is
take it
never
to the
more funny
woodshed.
than when you're in the wake of something like this. And it was certainly internet. Coming up next, we are going to head back to tonight's game. We'll get you ready for Denver, Minnesota here on ESPN Radio.
Just absolutely
Back here on Amber and
roasted.
Ian. No Ian tonight. Just Amber Wilson with you. You can find me at Amber W Sports. The NBA playoffs are on ESPN Radio. Tune in tonight as the Wolves host the Nuggets, presented by Indeed. Coverage begins at 8 p.m. Eastern on most ESPN radio stations and on Sirius XM Channel 80. So that means I'm hopping off air a little bit early. A little less than 30 minutes from now, we will turn you over to the coverage of that game. A big Game 6 headed our way. So let's head there to Minnesota. Marquez Teixeira, ESPN radio play-by-play on the call tonight. And Cassie, thanks as always for your time. Minnesota was missing their veteran point guard there in Game 5. Obviously a huge loss for Minnesota, and it took its toll on them. What is the status of Mike
That's
Conley
how bad
for
the Red
tonight?
Sox
Have
are.
you seen him? What
They're
is he
so
looking
bad
like?
they were called the Rock Sox. They
Amber,
were
good
just as
evening.
bad.
Good to be with you. Waiting to see Mike Conley out here on the floor. He was at shoot-around earlier today, but he was also at shoot-around before Game 5, which he did not play. But we were in Chris Finch, the head coach of the Timberwolves office, about an hour ago, and his indication was that, he was going to give it a shot tonight, but he then also hedged that by saying, let's see him get out there and warm it up. But everyone I've talked to,
I've never heard that
try
one
to grab
before.
as many sports writers and insiders who have ties, they all feel he's going to give it a shot, and and they're hoping, to your larger point, that he can be as close to 100% as possible, because certainly if
if you're looking at how Minnesota can win this game tonight and get this series back to Denver, part of that is going to be they got to have some better offense than they've had the last 3 games, and having Conley there certainly goes toward that end.
Yeah, certainly he will help them on the offensive end. It's also the defensive end that they need some help on, though, as well. Jokic has had 99 points in the last 3 games alone. He's been absolutely unbelievable. Looked every part of the MVP that he is. So what can Rudy Gobert, or frankly anybody on Minnesota, do differently, Casti, to defend?
No.
Yeah, they have to get back to what we saw in the first and second games of the series, and that might be way easier said than done, because you think of the situation. Denver had been off, I think it was a week, right after they swept the Lakers in round 1. I think Minnesota's defense was a little more engaged, perhaps, than the Nuggets were ready for. And I don't know what happened in game 2. I mean, that was just a take it to the woodshed game that Denver was not ready for. But I think largely Karl Anthony Towns has to stay out of foul trouble. That allows him to check Jokic, and it allows Rudy Gobert to be that rover. And when he had to play Jokic straight up due to the foul trouble with Cat, look, there's not many smarter basketball players on the planet than Jokic, and they would work the pick and roll to make sure they got Gobert outside on the perimeter, beat him off the dribble, which is not, he's 4-time Defensive Player of the Year, but that's not the strength of his game. And so they got to get back to that strategy of being able to have Gobert as the rover. But I just think the question is, is the toothpaste out of the tube? Because Denver's
At least
on
Todd Watt got
roll
his
now,
job.
and that starts with Jokic. That was about as good a
I'm
game
glad
as
he got a
you've seen
job.
from him in his career of outstanding games. He just had it all working, so you just wonder if they're in too much of a rhythm right now, even though they'll be on the road where they've already won twice here. But if Minnesota's got to get out to a good start, and they've got to play the defense that they played for most of the year.
They're on a roll. One of the things that has dramatically improved is Jamal Murray. I mean, he's not lights out, but he's certainly not killing Denver anymore. Is that, do you think, a consequence of just him seeming healthier throughout this series, or do you think that that's the fact that Aaron Gordon took over more of the ball handling role?
Yeah, that's a great point, Amber. That was a huge emphasis to help take some of the load off of Jamal Murray, from him just having to get across half court. But I do think your first point's important to present as well, because, last time I saw him in person, he wasn't moving like, we've seen Jamal Murray when he's 100%. And I think that space of time between games 2 and 3 allowed him, to get a little extra rest. And, even though the schedule has been a little more harried since, I just think it gave him a leg up on rest, plus having less of a ball handling role, getting that ball into the front court and starting the offense. So I think all that together, I think, combines to a healthier Jamal Murray. And when he's operating any closer toward 100%, and you have Jokic doing what he's doing, everybody else can have off nights. Doesn't matter. Those two guys can set the tone, and they have.
Mark Hesteser joining us on the call tonight for Denver, Minnesota, joining us from Minnesota. So obviously Minnesota hoping to extend this thing, Casti, to head back to Denver. But does it matter much that they're in Minnesota tonight? Because that home court hasn't seemed to necessarily matter so much so far. Do you think that's key?
I think, two things. One, it's turned into a great crowd up here, and I see they have all the white T-shirts out, so we'll have the white out. They know they're down to their last loss. There's a desperation. I think Denver's preparing for that. Everyone we talked to with the Nuggets, whether it be Michael Malone or, a couple of players or staffers we ran into the back halls, all of them are expecting Minnesota to throw the kitchen sink here. And the question is, will Denver withstand it like we saw, in the 2 earlier games here in Minneapolis in games 3 and 4? Or, will there be a little bit of an onslaught like we saw in game 2 in Denver? I think that's the big question. And they know, they're going to have to do something different against Jokic. You can't have him scoring and playmaking, having double-digit assists. So I would expect them to force the ball out of his hands. And again, I've said it a few times in between games, is when you're trying to make an adjustment
that is
like
crazy.
That against Jokic, you're just asking for trouble, because he makes the right play. He finds the open man, and that's the key. Is Michael Porter going to put out Minnesota today? Will Aaron Gordon, as you pointed out, continue to have plenty of success just roaming the baseline and scoring? So Minnesota's got to be on point. I would expect them, like Denver threw at Anthony Edwards the other day. All those double teams, I would expect Jokic to get the same treatment tonight, and let's see how Denver reacts to it.
It's a little bit like what Ant said. All you can do is laugh because at the end of the day, that
Yeah.
dude is just the best player in the league. Talking about Jokic. Mark Hestersher joining us here on Amber and Ian. No Ian tonight. You mentioned the double teaming on Ant. He's been held to under 20 points in 2 of the last 3. So what can he do differently to go back to superhero status?
Yeah, I think just being more on point. I think that's what I took away from our interview with his head coach, Chris Finch, was I think he said Ant made the right play 3/4 of the time. And so you take that quarter where maybe he held on to the ball too long and it's a lot to ask over 48 minutes to play a perfect game, but it's got to be better than 75%. So I think, look, he's like a sponge out there. He's 22 years of age. He's on a spotlight he hasn't been in before. He's at the top of the grease board when you walk into the Nuggets locker room of who we got to stop. So how fast can he do it in real time? And, I'm watching him right now getting shots up and making just about every one. So when the lights go on full glare and, they start throwing those double teams at him again, he's had 48 hours to figure it out. Like the times on tape where I just held it too long and didn't make the right decision. Can he make that adjustment tonight? That'll be fun to watch.
This doesn't feel like a make or break it for a player as young as Ant in terms of the narrative surrounding him, but it feels like a make it, right? Like an opportunity for him to tonight sort of solidify himself as like, oh no, he is here. He has arrived. He can overcome adversity.
I agree 100%, Amber. It's interesting just thinking, as you're saying that, you're making that point. If the season ends tonight, you would say it's been a successful season for Minnesota, right? They got to the second round. They hadn't been since 2004. But I'll throw the question out there. If they lose tonight and you won your first 6 games in the postseason and then you end the season 0-4, I think there's a little bit of that's a few cuts there where you're like, you know what? We could have done better. We had the defending champs on the rope going home up 2-0 in game 3. So I don't know what the actual narrative will be when it's all said and done if they fall here tonight and get swept. But just throwing it out there when you think, okay, successful season, but hold on a sec, we won 6 and then we lost our last 4. That's going to hurt going into the offseason.
Well, and I think that cuts extra deep because also you were able to take them in Denver, which is supposed to have the hardest home court advantage and the thin air, a mile high and all that stuff. And so I feel like having them there and doing it early in the series and then not being able to capitalize on it and coughing it up at home, that probably hurts a little bit more for the Minnesota Timberwolves fan. But we'll see. Maybe they can correct all that tonight, Kesty. We're getting ahead of ourselves.
That's right, exactly. And we'll still go back to that point in game 2 where Jamal Murray's tossing the heat pad onto the floor and, did not serve a suspension. And that could have completely changed the tenor of everything here. And so if indeed Minnesota goes down 4 straight after being up 2-0, those are the things you think about, I'm sure the Warriors are still thinking about 2016 and, how blowing the 3-1, how that all went down. You never forget that kind of stuff. So, but you're right. We're a little bit ahead of ourselves. Maybe Minnesota comes out, plays its A game, and then how fun would that be in Denver for Game 7 on Sunday?
Yeah, that would be great. That'd be great for the rest of us that don't have a rooting interest. We can only hope.
That's right.
We've got to get through Game 6 first, though. We'll find out in a little less than 20 minutes from now. We'll be hearing from Kesty again. Kesty, thanks so much.
You got it, Amber. Have a good night.
So again, coverage there of Game 6, Denver at Minnesota. That game tips at 8:30, but Kesty and the crew, they're going to get you started at 8 p.m. Eastern here on ESPN Radio, which means that Amber and Ian's hopping off air a little bit early. Just Amber tonight. No Ian. Coming up next, though, I'm not done yet. I got more to say, okay? Is J.J. Redick the answer at head coach? I swear I have more to say. Okay, let me
45,
try that
50,
again.
45,
I'm talking a lot, James.
25,
Don't give me that
20,
look.
15,
I'm talking
10,
a lot. It's
5.
just me tonight, bud. I'm talking a lot. All right, watch. This is going to be flawless. This is why they pay me the big bucks. Is J.J. Redick the answer at head coach the Los Angeles Lakers have been looking for? That is next on ESPN Radio. Nailed it. Along here on Amber and Ian. Ian is out tonight, so you just have
that black
Amber
officer
Wilson
did not be
America.
so damn
Amber
rude.
W Sports is how you find me. I am taking you up to Denver at Minnesota. The coverage of that game starting in a little less than 15 minutes from now, right here on ESPN Radio. Tip-off in that game is at 8:30 p.m. Eastern, so you'll be able to hear the whole thing right here on ESPN Radio. But also, there's Stanley Cup playoffs happening. Let's get an update.
Amber and Ian. Stanley Cup playoff update.
With our producer, James Steele.
Yeah, it's Game 6 in Raleigh, North Carolina, between the Hurricanes and the Rangers. The Rangers are up in the series 3-2, but the Hurricanes are up in this game 1-0 on a late first period Martin Necas goal. Hurricanes 1-0. We are in the first intermission. So go Canes, man.
Go Canes, trying to extend this thing, try to come back from a deficit. Only 4 teams in NHL history have come back from an 0-3 playoff deficit to win a series. The Canes looking to give themselves a chance to be the 5th tonight.
Oh yeah,
against this
I was
Rangers
thinking.
team.
I was thinking they were down 3-1. I mean, they were down 3-1, but originally they were down
0-3.
Yeah, that's all right. Hey,
Four teams.
Before you
NHL
win
history.
4, you got to win 1. Then you got to win 2.
There you go.
Then you got to win
We're
3.
getting. Well, they're
That's
on their
math.
way, so we'll see. That is math. I'm not good at it. That's why I'm a sports radio host, but that is math. So we'll see if the Canes can get it done tonight. We'll continue to keep you updated here on ESPN Radio. But I want to hit on something that I heard Bobby Marks say on our airwaves earlier. He was on our morning show on Sportsmanlike, and the ESPN NBA front office insider was talking about the Los Angeles Lakers and their head coaching vacancy. Now, there's all these rumors out there about our colleague here at ESPN, JJ Redick, and how he may be the leading candidate right now to be the next head coach of the Los Angeles Lakers. And Bobby Marks thinks that this is a pretty darn good idea. Take a listen.
I would hire JJ Redick. I would, I would go out. It's an out-of-the-box thing.
Wow.
That what they've done the last couple of years has not worked. Certainly Darvin Ham for 2 years and Frank Vogel for 3 years. I know they won a championship here. But I think if there's anybody that could get this team where they think they can get, I do think it is JJ, even without the coaching experience.
Oh, man. I have such mixed feelings about this because it seems like that's probably what LeBron wants. But what LeBron wants in terms of coaching decisions has not always been what is best for LeBron or even best for the team. I mean, we are talking about a man who wanted to fire Eric Spoelstra after his first year in Miami. Okay, I'm still angry at LeBron for that. But he seems to have, in these organizations since departing Miami, have had a lot of control, and it has not always been that successful in some of the coaching decisions that you feel like LeBron has probably had his hands in, frankly. So this would be another one that feels like a LeBron James sort of move, because him and JJ have the podcast together. They very clearly have a rapport. They very clearly have mutual respect. And I have mixed feelings about it, because on one hand, I understand what Bobby said. Why not go out of left field? Nothing else has been working, so to speak. Although, I mean, you could argue, Vogel, they get a title, then you get with Darvin Ham, you only give him 2 seasons. He gets you to a Western Conference Finals when nobody thought that they were going to be there. So I think it depends how you measure success, frankly. But they end up moving on from him. The problem is that is the problem. The expectation is championship or bust. The expectation isn't get to another Western Conference Finals. The expectation isn't get to an NBA Finals. The expectation when you're coaching LeBron James and Anthony Davis at any point in LeBron James's career is win an NBA title. And that is a big bite to chew if you are first-time head coach with 0 coaching experience. Not 0 head coaching experience, 0 coaching experience. What JJ has done since his playing career, which was not long ago at all, is start a podcast network and be brilliant here on ESPN. But that's what he's done. He hasn't coached. He's analyzed. And although he seems to have a really high basketball IQ when he analyzes, and he seems brilliant to all of us, I have no idea, frankly, how that translates in terms of being a coach. And the additional thing about this is that I would imagine that although LeBron seems to want this, or we all have that impression that LeBron wants this, there's no way LeBron sees J.J. Redick as an elder or an authority figure in any way. J.J. Redick is the same exact age as LeBron James. Like, those dudes are colleagues. They're bros. They're not boss and employee, which is essentially the relationship you're supposed to have when you're the coach. And it's not to say that young coaches don't work in leagues, because obviously they do. But young coaches are typically still coaching guys that are, 23 when they're 38, and we're talking about how young they are. But when you're talking about a young coach at 39 years old who's also coaching the oldest player in the league at 39 going to be 40 years old, it's kind of a different ballgame. Does it translate there? Like, I have no doubt that JJ, if he's going to end up being a good head coach, because again, I don't know, I've never seen him coach anything. But if JJ is going to be a good head coach, do I think that JJ can garner the respect from 23-year-olds? Sure. Is it going to feel the same when it's a 39-year-old who has the same level of experience as you, who frankly was a much better player than you, has as high a basketball IQ as you, and is the same age as you? Like, what does JJ have over LeBron that is going to get that next level of respect from LeBron? And if you don't have that next level of respect for who essentially is your boss, then are you going to take it well when they tell you what to do? And I think that's the big question here. And I don't know, because again, on one hand, I understand what Bobby Marks is saying. Why not give it a shot? Nothing else has worked. It's the end of LeBron's career. Why not let him essentially make the decision and appease him? And maybe it'll work out. Maybe them being boys, there will be so much camaraderie between those two that LeBron also will have an input on the coaching, which frankly we saw even with Darvin Ham. I mean, there was times in games where we saw LeBron James, it looked like anyways, grab the clipboard and start drawing up stuff. So it felt like LeBron was out there coaching at times, which I don't blame the dude. He's been the best player in his generation, and he certainly earned that if he wants to do that. And maybe that goes over better with a first-time head coach who's also your exact same age, who you're friends with, in J.J. Redick. Or on the other hand, maybe it ain't cool at all the first time that dude who's your age and telling you what to do tells you what to do. I could see that going either way. Udonis Haslem, ESPN NBA analyst, was on NBA Today, and he said that he doesn't agree with Bobby. He doesn't think this sounds like a great idea.
I'm going to go ahead and say it. If it's JJ, it's going to be a cynical locker room. You're going to see guys that are going to say, is Coach going to do a podcast after the game with LeBron? You're going to have a cynical locker room of guys that are going to side-eye everything JJ says, because they're going to wonder, is it JJ's message or LeBron's message?
That'd be amazing if this was a podcast. Like, please let that happen. Please let them skip James.
Yes, please. It'd be amazing.
That'd be amazing.
Yes.
Maybe that's what this is about. Because the only way to get even more powerful in the media game if you're LeBron and JJ Redick is this move. This is the move. This is a sphere we've never seen. This would be something we've never witnessed in new media. We've never seen the coach sit down with a star player after the games and give us a pod. That's straight to the top of the charts.
I think I need it. I need it. Yeah. Hire him. I'm with Bobby Marks. We need it. We need it.
I think I'm coming around too. Maybe this is a good idea. The hell with age. This is a great idea, actually. We should make this happen if we're the Los Angeles Lakers. That would be amazing. And I've been saying for years that LeBron didn't go to Los Angeles to win championships. Sure, winning championships, yes, always the goal of LeBron's great. But that wasn't why he chose the Lakers. He chose the Lakers because of a whole bunch of other reasons. Maybe it's this. It's the media game. Coming up next here, Nuggets, Wolves, Game 6 right here on ESPN Radio.
Lucy, what's going on with your little sister? Why is she so angry at you?
We are in a fight right now. I thought we were having a good time. We talked on the phone yesterday. This morning I wake up to a text that said, "I effing hate you." I said, "Why?" She said, "You're the worst sister ever." And I said, "Why?" And she said, "You do all this stuff for my brother and my dad. You never do anything for me."
How old is your sister?
22. The worst age. And I said,
put it on the poll, please, Juju. Is 22 the worst age?
I was like, "Kate, what's up?" She said, "You had mascots on the show yesterday and you don't even bother to effing call me, knowing that my one true dream in life is to be a professional mascot. Your job has gotten me nowhere. You either need to get it together or get a new job because I can't do this much longer."
You knew that your little sister's one true dream job was to be a mascot?
Actually, this is the first I'm learning of this, but she is so angry. People don't know that she calls me pretty much every single day during the show. I don't pick up, and then she immediately texts me and says, "You need to quit your job. I am more important." She's a star.
That is sort of that generation.
Yeah.
Is it not?
Damn.
The selfie
Yeah.
generation?
That's Kate.
Mike Ryan, you missed. Bernie was here, and evidently, I don't know which mascot was guilty of this. They said that one of the mascots was burping a great deal. I imagine that he was smoking a cigarette underneath the suit. He got a real coughing fit from smelling how much Stugat smelled like cigarettes. But there's a funny character in a series about the mascot who underneath the mascot costume is an angry, bitter, burping smoker. What happened with that? What happened with the mascots here yesterday that you guys saw underneath the costume? Because getting a little close can show you it's nice from a distance, the cartoon stuff, but when you see and smell the human inside, you're like, oh, wait a minute, this human can see me. I can't see this human. This is a job for voyeurs, people who want to be mascots. I can't trust them.
Like my sister.
Stugatz gave Bernie a hug, and I don't know if it's because he's a Knicks fan or because he smelled like cigarettes, but I heard coughing.
Yes.
I can't confirm whether it was a human or just Bernie.
Coughing inside the suit. That's correct.
There were also deep sighs whenever we were talking about the Panthers because it wasn't the Heat. So
Bernie was not very happy. We did do one of our better hockey segments with them in the room.
The idea of being able to hear the mascots under their breath sort of bitterly. Yes, the show you guys were getting because you can hear mascot sounds because we were talking about the only team in town still playing. Mike, you're a little bit scared. No, you keep telling me.
No, about the Bruins?
Just, it's 2 games now. It's 2 games for your season, and...
No.
Damn.
Not at all. If I were a Rangers fan, I'd be a bit more nervous. The series price on Florida is minus 750. That the books have pretty supreme confidence that Florida's going to close it out here in the next 2 games.
What is it at the Rangers?
Minus 250.
Oof. All right, I feel better now, honestly. That makes
They
me
were
feel
up 3-0.
Because I am scared. But this is supposed to be scary. I've kind of been saying this the whole time. Like, this is the feeling we're supposed to have. I'm confident while being scared.
Well,
if that makes any sense.
Start the show, because you guys have been yelling at me for 24 hours about my Game 7 take. So go ahead and start the show.
This is the Dan Levator Show with the Stugatz Podcast.
Today's episode is sponsored by DraftKings. Stay tuned because you'll hear more about DraftKings and all it has to offer throughout the show. DraftKings, the crown is yours.
We have giant breaking news around here, which is super unusual at this hour in the morning, but we are chasing a story that we have not chased like this since J.R. Smith threw a cup of soup at an assistant coach in Cleveland, and then we got to the heart and the bottom of that story. We found out it was tortilla soup. We brought you that story before anyone else did. In the NBA, I know many of you might want to talk about Dallas OKC. This is giant enough news that we are changing the call letters today at WFAT. We are changing the call letters in a second so that you understand how we meet this news in New York, that the New York Knicks, that the reason they won that game against Indiana, even though their team is broken, and I know we love this motivational stuff, the stuff the coaches do before games and how it is that they get their teams ready for a moment. The New York Knicks against the Indiana Pacers, a little scared that the previous game had been down 43 points. The team's injured. The tension in the locker room before Game 5 of a scared Knicks team that didn't know quite what it was with confidence was broken. And this story was broken by Fred Katz. The tension was broken when someone in the locker room released what is being reported to be a, quote, epic fart. An epic fart cut the tension in the room, and the New York Knicks then went out and did what they did against the Indiana Pacers. We are pursuing this story. We are pursuing Fred Katz. He says he's not going to say who it was. We need to find out who it was. We need to narrow it down.
Well, whoever denied it supplied it.
We need to get to the bottom of this. I didn't even do that on purpose. I want this story aired out. Didn't do that on purpose either. I don't want to make a bunch of fart jokes here. I do want to find out, though, what happened in that room, the reported details.
WFAT.
Excellent. There we go. Now we're ready to cover this story correctly. We've got new call letters.
Oh my God.
We've got new imaging. Chris Cody, as always, he's really getting good at this executive producer job, the way he does seamlessly things on the fly.
WFAT.
Who is that?
It's me.
It's just Jeremy?
Yeah.
It's just Jeremy. Okay.
Yeti wasn't available this early.
All right. So Fred Katz is not telling us who it is. He's got a responsibility as a journalist to tell us who it is. Like, you can't make that story partial. You can't credit the fart and then not credit the fart maker.
WFAT.
And also what happened in that Dallas OKC game, super interesting to me, just from this perspective, okay? Because you know how much I don't like some of the intangible bullshit we attach to sports. Like, yes, they were motivated by a fart. Of course, that's why they won. Or leader guy screaming on the sideline, I've fallen in love with Paul Maurice because the neck bulges with veins. OKC, throughout my history covering that sport, it's usually super predictable this time of year. It's going to be 1-2 all the time, 1, 2, and 3. It's not usually a 5. Houston Rockets did it with Hakeem Olajuwon. Shaq's still mad about it last night. It's one of my favorite things in sports television, when Barkley actually makes Shaq sensitive and mad, reminding him of what Hakeem did to him. But 5 seeds don't win that series generally. The 1 seed at home, you could just go ahead and say that's going to win a Game 7, and maybe OKC will. But the thing that I find interesting about this is that OKC is the youngest team in the league. They are like a college team. North Carolina's starting 5 is about the same age. And I'm always told that these guys got to learn through the failure. You can't just go to the front of the line, that it's got to feel the way it's felt for Luka and Kyrie for them to be able in those moments to win when it becomes playoff basketball. And so I don't know what youth means. I thought it was going to be knucklehead ball. Stan is saying, not that team, they're poised. That team's not going to do young. They're not going to do what Karl Anthony Towns and Anthony Edwards might, which is knucklehead ball. But they're young. And they got by 2 veterans who have like sizzled under.
What were you saying about him in that EP chair?
Sorry about that.
Kyrie Irving and Luka Doncic have burned under that hot light for many years of public scrutiny. OKC just got here. And it really is legitimately confusing to me, because I would have just said OKC was better all year. They're younger, they're faster. Look, Luka's on one leg. I love what that team does in general. I'm going to love to watch them grow.
Did you see the tweet that said Chet Holmgren looks like Abraham Lincoln was dealing coke at the University of Miami?
Can we put that on the poll? Yes, I did see that because of how he was dressed. Does Chet Holmgren look like he was Abraham Lincoln dealing coke while he was at the University of Miami? He's young, and I never know when these guys say, like they always do after failures, we'll learn from this. We'll learn from this. But teams like Minnesota and OKC never get to actually advance in this sport. They've got to suffer first. Boston doesn't get to win before the last 3 or 4 seasons feel like they do. That's almost universal, right? That's without exception. There's nobody who's ever gone to the front of the line and won a title the way OKC and Minnesota would have to this year, correct? History of the sport.
History of the sport would suggest, like, there have been a couple outliers that they actually get to the final and surprise people with a run. I think you could maybe say, even though at the time they were like both top 15 players in the league, but the Penny Hardaway, Shaquille O'Neal Magic were ahead of schedule, and then they ran into Hakeem Olajuwon. I also think you can make an argument for that OKC with Westbrook and Kevin Durant and James Harden didn't do a great deal of suffering before getting to the final. They were always that Achilles heel for that.
You're even making an accomplishment, and you should, just getting there. Just getting there. You don't get to go through the front of the line. It's such an interesting thing in that sport that there needs to be a form of suffering and that the young people actually have to learn. And I say all this knowing that OKC could win the next 2 games, because these things do tend to be pretty predictable. We get to Game 7 and the 1 wins. Like, however it is we get there, we get to Game 7 and the 1 wins because that game's at home.
Yeah, but the sport has changed a lot in recent years.
That's true.
We just had an NBA Finals last year where there was an 8 seed that made it.
And the Celtics win more on the road than they do at home in the playoffs somehow.
Yeah, we're in a really strange era right now in the NBA, and historically, it's not really a sport that has these super long windows. So it's almost like we're this close. We gotta do it now.
Howdy, folks. It's Mike Ryan, and as you know, you're probably a sports fan. You know it's playoff time, and you probably have a team that you want to root on, and maybe you're like me and you're not a season ticket holder, so you miss the first crack at getting tickets. So what do? You check the secondary market. Well, let me tell you about my best friend in that secondary market, because I've tried them all, and no one's as good as Game Time, the only ticketing app that gives you complete peace of mind with your purchase. You get to see the view from your seat on your phone before you buy the tickets. All-in pricing shows your total cost up front, so there are no surprises. Buy tickets in seconds with just 2 taps. Telling you folks, this is a personal endorsement from me. I was using Game Time long before they joined us, and I'm so happy they're with us so I can preach the good word. Trust me, folks, Game Time, that is what you need. Take the guesswork out of buying NBA tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code DAN for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code DAN for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed.
Dan Lebatard.
He seems like a not nice guy, and he's always been a not nice guy. I don't care for him, and I hope he has the day he deserves.
Oh,
Wow.
Stugats. I hope he has the day he deserves.
That's how I get people when they're really mean to me. I'm not like, go after yourself. I'm like, I hope you have the day you deserve.
It's a
I think
great
it's so
kind.
much
It's a
like,
great kind insult.
twisted.
Yes.
Beautiful.
It's leaving it to the cosmos to sort it out.
That's a less southern, bless your heart.
This is the Dan Lebatard Show with the Stugats.
Lucy, you were no more interested in this show and its history than you were when Chris Cody made that fart sound. I am just learning about you that you appear to be a fart girl.
I am foot girl, fart girl, lots. Fart. Like, my test for people is like, hey, if I'm like trying to figure out if I vibe with you, like a good fart joke or birth joke, if you laugh, you're probably pretty chill. If you're like, no, that's juvenile humor, get over it. Farts have always been funny. They will always be funny. Love them.
Juju, put it on the poll, please. Are farts the original joke? Because I do believe before speech that was, somebody was climbing up a tree and nobody could communicate and there wasn't language, and that's the original joke.
You don't think it's got your nose?
Might be someone just falling down.
Damn
I
it,
don't know.
270.
Put it on the poll at Levitard Show. Let's put some nominees up here. Got your nose, falling down.
Pointing to something that's, you have a little something on your shirt, and then running the finger up to the nose. I still get
My
folks with
daughter
that.
loves that. I taught her that. She does it to everyone she sees.
Well, let me ask you a question. Will I have video at any point today of you talking to your daughter and trying to explain, as I requested yesterday, the whole Jokic thing?
I'm working on it. It was a long edit. It did not go like I thought. It wasn't as funny as I thought. My daughter wasn't in the mood to play ball. Let's just put it that way.
You're super into these NBA playoffs. I thought I wanted an NBA with more parity, and it turns out I'm not in on it. And I have larger issues with the sport just in general. I think the sport's a little bit broken. But I was watching Celtics Cavs last night on a second TV. And I know he's got a contract issue and he may be on the move. But a sore calf? A sore calf? Is why Donovan Mitchell's missed the game. I know I'm in hockey mode and I'm not trying to do this, but the shit hockey players play with.
Oh, I thought of that yesterday. It wasn't just that. Cleveland had a bunch of guys who were out. Cleveland...
Yeah, Allen, I understand. Allen, does Allen have broken ribs? Like, he took a really bad
But
shot.
LeVert, all of a sudden, LeVert was out.
Yeah, but like the sore calf, like there is no tomorrow in that sport. You sit out the sore calf because you're worried that you may make the injury worse or you may get another injury, but there is no tomorrow. You're going out with Max Strus having to be your guy. That's not tough.
It was funny to see him also standing on the sideline the entire time with that sore calf coaching his teammates.
Dude, that's a real bad look. And again, I don't know anybody. I'm tangentially paying attention to the sport. You guys got that on this show. But I saw the injury report, and I just couldn't believe that's how your main guy's going to go out. That's his last act, potentially, in a Cavs uniform.
While Reinhard gets hit in the face by a...
he has a hole in his cheek. Sam Reinhard had a hole in his cheek.
I do
That
want
sounds
to
gross.
just stop for a moment, because I've actually asked around on some of this LeBron stuff, and it's more interesting than I thought it was, and probably not terribly surprising when you put the pieces together on this. But when you think of what's birthed over 15 years that turns Kyrie's career into this weird thing, he makes the greatest shot in the history of the sport, and then he breaks free from LeBron to learn his own things. Everything that has happened after that leaves us today in a place where Kyrie Irving is sort of damaged from everything that happened. James Harden is damaged. Kawhi Leonard damaged in some ways by everything that's birthed. And so if Donovan Mitchell's unhappy, that will be how he exits. That's how it is done. Don't injure yourself again. Don't risk anything like Kevin Durant did by playing in the finals and tearing his Achilles. But the thing I wanted to tie to LeBron that was super interesting that I hadn't pieced together when we were talking about this yesterday, his last act so far with the Lakers is to get that last question as punctuation. Hey, did you think at all during this game about whether you're going to be here or not? And he took that long pause, and he's like, I'm not going to answer that. And he dropped the microphone and he walked off. And then everything after that is, how do I leverage the Lakers into whatever I want? Is J.J. Redick my coach? Is my son going to be drafted by you? Get me all the players that I want. You want me to end my career here in Hollywood? I'd like to. Clutch Management thrives here. We're running all the meetings out here. Every place we walk into, the executives can't be happier to just give us money. Yeah, but give me everything I want. That's how it'll end for LeBron. And what he birthed onto the side is Kyrie Irving over here and Donovan Mitchell. And they're going to get theirs how they get theirs. But when you say the sport's a little bit broken and the games aren't real close, like it's not hockey. It's not hockey. I'm not saying it's bad basketball because I love basketball, but I'm not getting a lot of Brunson Sixers.
Yeah.
Like I want more Murray game winners. I want the games to be close. And the way the Celtics are playing, lose by 20, win by 20, whatever.
Yeah, again, tangentially following, always on mute, it seems like the 15-point game is like the new 5-point game. These games aren't really compelling down the stretch. And also, just another observation, I've seen Jason Tatum play playoff basketball for what feels like a decade. He always complains for calls, but literally every time, and he's gotten a fair amount of texts this postseason because of it, he thinks he's Michael Jordan in terms of him not getting calls. And he is just constantly complaining up and down the court.
I will be fascinated at what the sociology of this generation becomes as we keep guarding, sort of framing Jason Tatum as if he is a formed, muscular, 35-year-old
That shit looks ugly.
while not allowing for the last 10 years of whatever his generation has done with fame and power that makes Ben Simmons short circuit over here when he enters the fame machine. Like, whatever it is that's happened there with Tatum, as you guys wonder, why is Kevin Durant so angry and bitter? Well, he did these years this way through all of this power, and Tatum's going to get chewed up by some of what's around him. But if he thinks it's Jordan, it's because he's probably treated like, I want to be the face of the league. You're perfect. You're perfect in every way. We'd love to make you the face of the league. All you got to do is win. Here's your team. We'll get Marcus out of here. Hey, Jaylen Brown, we'll get you whatever you need. You'll take all the shots at the end, all the 18-footers. Here it is. Here it is.
Well, you'll have the opportunity. He needs to take the shots. That's what he needs to show.
You ask him why he has a God complex, he'd say, because I am God at his most honest.
Alec Baldwin?
That's what I just did.
That's so old that I don't think anyone else would have caught that on this show. Like, if you did this yesterday, it would have just slid by.
It's a good reference for the old-timers in our audience.
Is that Malice?
Yes. It's a great monologue. One of the best. Might not be the best in Alec Baldwin's career.
He's the monologue guy.
But, yes, you ask that doctor operating on a patient, does he have a God complex? And at his most honest, that doctor would tell you in that moment when I'm holding the scalpel, I am God.
I am God.
At Celtics basketball, he's the center of everything. In that city where they care about that sport, like maybe the Patriots are that now, but it's never been the Patriots. That sport's the one that matters. It's the first one that gave Boston its identity.
It's getting outrated by the other sport.
He's the perfect... Is it in Boston?
It got in the first round, and granted the Heat weren't this super compelling opponent, but in the first round the Bruins and Celtics went head-to-head, and the Bruins outrated them.
Hockey would be they have burst so much sports media because of how much they care about sports.
Oh yeah,
in that market.
It's super annoying how those two teams in particular, the Celtics in the NBA and the Bruins in the NHL, are covered, because the mainstream media is essentially birthed out of that region of the country. So they established the narrative for everybody. We saw this offseason with the pursuit of Damian Lillard, in which the Northeast just simply could not let that stand. And we're seeing it right now with how this Panthers officiating discussion, which has just gotten totally out of hand, is happening.
We will get to that in a second, but I did want to ask the crew, because of how we discussed this the day that LeBron showed up in Cleveland and used the currency that he's used over 15 years to dominate the sport, because I do find this endlessly fascinating, and also I understand why people object to, hey, media, can't you cover the new guys? How about the new guys? And I'm like, well, the media grew up, the voices now.
This is how we do it for 15 and 20 years. It's this guy, and wherever he's going, this is what we're following. And what he's doing is the oldest player in the league. It's a gangster move. The Lakers, last time you saw Jenny Buss, she was pawing at him. Jeannie, I'm sorry. Is that a fine?
No, it's all right. You just misspoke. Move on.
They were hugging him, Kurt Rambis's wife, and Jeannie Buss. Last time we saw them, were holding LeBron as if they know that he's responsible for the Laker economy, which he is, and they will give him anything. But his last move of leverage publicly as a Laker, no comment, and then he shows up in Cleveland with a bottle of wine, and here we go. I've got the leverage as the oldest player in the league. I don't know about the audience, but when you start piecing these things together, understand that's strategic, all of it. He's gotten very good at it. He's mastered it. No one's ever done it like him.
Yeah, no one's had the opportunity to do it like him. It's just such a different day and age. It'd be really curious to see, like, you're shaped by the culture around you, and just Michael Jordan came from a different generation. I'd really be fascinated with all the things that the old school NBA fans attribute to Michael Jordan and this mentality that he had. If you plop Michael Jordan in today's day and age, will he feel like the Michael Jordan that you know and love? Or will he feel a little bit more like Jason Tatum? Will he feel a little bit more emo? Would he be on social media? Would he have selfie videos? Would he be doing the kinds of stuff? How would he dress walking to a game? Well, it couldn't be worse than what he was dressing to games like in the 90s. I'll give him that.
Well, what you were talking about with Tatum and complaining on calls, if you watch the late game and you watch the Dallas Mavericks, Luka, the announcers were actually praising him for bouncing back from a game in Game 4 where he was doing a lot of complaining, where early in the game last night, he was getting mugged. He made a shot where he was in midair, got hit right in front of the three-point line, switched hands and threw it up with one hand, made the shot, and didn't say anything to the officials, and sort of went in with this mentality of, I'm not going to say anything, I'm not going to complain about calls, and he was getting mugged. But then later in the game, ultimately got those calls and had a tremendous game on the road in Game 5. So he had that mentality.
Luka's a dog. I love watching him. And also, if you can look past Kyrie Irving's past, where he spewed hateful propaganda on his social media channels, he's actually been very low-key for Kyrie, and he's fitting in quite nicely, and he's matured in that we're not really talking about. Think about all the things that have gone on. Think about all the things that are going on right now. You haven't heard Kyrie Irving weigh in on any of it.
I love how him just not talking is him maturing. He's just like, he's keeping quiet. No, I'm with you.
Well, Andy hasn't been very good in a couple of the games. P.J. Washington's been, probably better in the series.
He scored 9 points, 9 points, and 12 points in 3 of those games. They're up 3-2.
But he's been great for them, and I want to examine later down the road just some of that stuff I don't understand on how it is OKC has to grow up, and then we can continue to get back to basketball being largely predictable, although it's changing the way that the three-pointers are changing all of the scoreboards. I wanted to continue a conversation from yesterday that Chris Cody was still yelling at me about, though, because he thinks I've fanned out in terms of all I care about is content. I only look at things as a media person, so of course I want Game 7s. But I keep looking at him and saying, but if you're a sports fan who's confident in your team and you say that your building, the Mecca, is the best place in the world that all the other players are afraid of,
Yes, he's not
why would you not want a Game 7 in your home building? I'm not saying that you don't want Game 6 at Indiana to win, but why would you be afraid? It's better than a Game 6.
Why would I want a one-game sample?
I don't know if it's because you've been a journalist longer than you haven't been, but this is an asinine take.
Oh, God.
It's one of the craziest things you've ever said.
No, I'm a Panthers fan. I'd rather it end Friday night.
Of course.
And if you get to the mountaintop and you can reflect on it, yeah, that Game 7, that's the stuff that legends are made of. But no, I'd prefer a 4-game sweep every round if I could.
We have been having a form of this argument since 2010, and you guys always end up on the other side of this argument from me, and I keep telling you, don't you understand that the fear is part of the fun?
Yeah, for the neutral observer.
It doesn't.
You have zero allies in this discussion other than neutrals. You act like we're the crazy ones. No one's agreed with you.
For 15 years, no one has agreed with me, and I do not care for this reason. The best moments that you ever have had in sports start with you being afraid. The more afraid you are, the more fun and memorable it ends up being after it is done. The Ray Allen shot is remembered forever around here.
Yeah, but I'm not. Yeah, but what are you? Yeah, in retrospect, like I said, if you get to the mountaintop,
the higher. I'm not saying that you want it beforehand. Why would you fear the fear when the fear makes it all better?
Dan, your entire argument is you saying it on the front end. No, I don't want it. I want it to be over. Yeah, it was great when Ray Allen made the shot. Do you know what was going on inside my guts?
That's the good stuff. That's the reason.
Do you know what was going on inside my guts at Keg South during that game?
That's the good stuff. I had a blanket wrapped around my head, sitting on my bed in the dark.
This is why you ride roller coasters.
My GI still is not right.
It's why you watch horror movies.
I don't watch horror movies, Dan.
It's why you listen to murder podcasts.
I don't.
That's actually
You
surprising.
don't know me at all.
That's just judging book by the cover.
I love SVU, but that's different.
It is surprising that you don't listen to murder podcasts.
I feel like you're listening to a murder pod right now.
Okay, everyone, I'm going to switch over to the Saints broadcast.
The fear makes it so much better.
But you just said, you threw in the little line of, I'm not saying you want it on the front end, but you asked Sam
The
Morrill
entire
yesterday.
argument is based
All right,
on
I'm
the
about to
front end. That's why
switch
it's
over
ridiculous.
to
I don't
the
want it.
Saints franchise, and I'll see y'all in a couple.